To order, 5:30 p.m. And may I have roll call, please?
Director Gleason,
Here.
Director Christine Tucker,
Here.
Director Whipple,
Here.
President Kishimoto,
Here.
Director Holman,
Here.
Director McNiven,
Here.
Director Sear.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, there's this one item on our special meeting agenda. Very important item. Skyline Field Office Needs Assessment Report. And we're all looking forward to the presentation.
Good evening, directors. My name is Golly Basone. I'm a planner 3. Before I get started on the presentation, I'm going to turn it over to Brandon Stewart, the Land and Facilities Manager, to give some context for this project.
Good evening, directors of the board. Brandon Stewart, Land and Facilities Manager. Thanks for having me. And thanks, Golly, for giving me this opportunity to talk about the importance of this project to land and facilities especially. So as we all know, Land and Facilities has grown tremendously since its inception and will continue to grow to meet the future demands of the district. And I just wanted to share with you some of the kind of the 3 key growth drivers that I see in the next few years that are really influencing the need for an updated facility within the SFO region. The first one is the adoption and expansion of the Wildland Fire Resiliency Program. To date, the SF crew has completed 114 acres of fuel treatment last year to complete the SCC grant. We were additionally awarded a second SCC grant, and we're currently underway to complete an additional 200 acres of fuel treatment within that region alone. Because of the nature of the SFO region, most of our future tier 1, tier 2 projects are going to be spinning out of that region, which is going to require a substantial effort for us to meet our goals that are outlined in the Wildland Fire Resiliency Program, and also just to meet the maintenance objectives of maintaining the fuel treatments once we complete them. So I see significant growth in that area that we need to meet, and it's going to really spawn out of that SFO region. The second growth driver is climate change. So as we've noticed in the storms that we had last January, we had significant impacts throughout our entire preserves, but the majority of those impacts were in the SFO region. Of the 96 total work orders, 88% of that 96 came out of SFO. And the most significant damage was within the SFO region because it has the most culverts, it has the most bridges. There's more increased likelihood of damage and of failure within that region. And so we would expect to see more storm damage that's going to impact our ability not only to address the storm damage, clean it up and prepare it for the upcoming season for visitors, but also to maintain and stay on top of our open space maintenance restoration program, which is just our cyclical annual preventative maintenance of culverts and bridges and things of that nature to make sure we don't have future failures. So that's the second area that I see that could be a challenge for us in the future. And then the final area is fleet electrification. So we're all very well aware that the governor has been put forth a very aggressive mandate to electrify all cars within California, but especially for government fleets. So we are going to be required to starting in 2024, any vehicle purchases that we make, 50% of them need to be electric vehicles. And then by 2027, 100% of our purchased vehicles need to be electric vehicles. As of right now, we have 0 electric vehicles up at SFO. We don't have any capacity at this moment to charge electric vehicles. And so I see that as a significant hurdle in order for us to meet our state mandate. So those are kind of the 3 key drivers that are influencing my future idea of where we're going to be facing challenges with growth within the department, along with many of the others that we shared throughout the board tours. But I just wanted to share a little context as I start planning for the future of my department. Thank you.
Okay.
Sure.
So we have a question from a board member.
Yeah, thank you. And feel free if you want to defer this or if Golly wants to address it. But I was actually just going to move the general manager's recommendation, but we'll hold off on that.
Okay, let's go.
Brandon, and you're maybe in the best is I'd like to get some context though of because this was really good drill down into the Skyline Field Office, but the 3 drivers apply to more than just the Skyline Field Office.
Sure.
And I was just wondering if you could say a few words about gosh, what about the foothills? And we just did south area, so I'm hoping that's in good shape. And what about the coastal? So I don't know, maybe there's a better time to address it or maybe after, but that's something that I was wondering about as I read through this.
Yeah, I think that we can kind of pop in throughout the report because I think there's good opportunities for us to address those things specifically. I would say as a primer to that, because of the South Area office and the connectivity and the versatility of the FFO region, regional office, there's a lot more facilitation within that area, and it's a lot easier for us to get the work done and also to kind of cross collaborate between crews because they've been able to spread out.
Yeah.
So it's given us more efficiency and more operational effectiveness by having that additional office. Because we don't have a CAO and we're going to have some significant hurdles in order for us to obtain a CAO office in the future. My direct kind of like point of view or my focus is really on how can we make SFO the hub in order for us to meet our objectives within that region.
Okay. The CAO is Coastal Area Office, right?
Yeah, Coastal Area Outpost.
Outpost.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. So the agenda for tonight will begin with the general manager's recommendations, followed by project background and context. I'll pause for questions and then get into the needs assessment report, where I will again pause for questions before I will present the project goals and project scope, both of which I will be looking to you for input and feedback. I will end my presentation with next steps, and then I can answer more questions. We can hear public comment, and then this will be followed by the board discussion. So the general manager's recommendations for this item are to receive the Skyline Field Office Needs Assessment Report that describes the facility needs at SFO, review and approve the goals of this project, and provide input on the proposed project scope. The district operates 4 field offices. These include the Skyline Field Office, located near the intersection of Skyline Boulevard and Page Mill Road, the Coastal Area Outpost, so it's currently not an office, it's an outpost, located in La Honda, the Foothills Field Office, located in Rancho San Antonio, and the South Area Office, located in Campbell. As you can see, the Skyline Field Office services almost 42,000 acres. The district is seeking a permanent full-service field office located on the coast, and that project will be a consideration throughout the SFO renovation project. But regardless of the coastal area office, the district does have operational needs and anticipates growth in the Skyline corridor. These are some of the existing conditions at the Skyline Field Office. There's a main office building built in 1996 and a series of buildings that are used for shop and storage. There are currently 52 employees. The work completed out of SFO is critical to district operations. Staff currently maintain almost 250 miles of trails, 24 public parking areas, and 14 restrooms. SFO staff also maintain a lot of infrastructure. Brandon touched upon this, such as culverts and bridges. These maps represent some of the work completed out of SFO, but there's a lot of other work that occurs. Things like patrolling the preserves, the integrated pest management program, wildland fire resiliency work, and many other functions related to the management of the district's preserves. This project was previously discussed by the board in 2009 to 2012, but the project was deferred due to competing priorities. We are reevaluating the Skyline Field Office operational needs because the district has undergone major changes since then, including the passage of Measure AA and the FOSM report. The previous planning work is helpful for the current project because site constraints were identified at that time that help inform this project. These include topographical constraints, permit requirements for both San Mateo and Santa Clara County. The yellow line is the county line that goes through the site. Fire and water requirements. And we anticipate that fire and water requirements will have become even more stringent since 2010. Are there any questions before I share the needs assessment report?
Just a quick question, and I'm glad you brought up the property line because I knew that that was an issue. Sorry, and maybe you'll address this later, but I knew when we studied this before, that was a big problem. But it looks like, gosh, most of the site is in one county, not the other. So either address it now or golly at the appropriate time, but that was a little confusing to me.
Yeah, so at the previous project, we completed a preliminary site plan and submitted a pre-application. And through that, there were negotiations with the county where they decided that Santa Clara County would take the lead with input with San Mateo County. Whether or not that's the case this time will be determined once we have a preliminary site plan that we can go to the county with, and then kind of figure out if they're going to take the same approach or if they're going to have a different approach.
Oh, I see. So we would just have to deal with, you're hoping, just with one county.
Hopefully.
Gosh, got it. Thanks.
Quick question, a follow-up on that, and I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time for you to answer or not, but I will be curious to know if either of the two options that are outlined in the report would be easier with respect to this challenge with the two counties. So if you could address that at some point.
I would say I don't know at this time.
Tina Hug, Senior Planner. So I was on the prior project from 10 years ago, and it does depend on how we use the site. If we're trying to use the existing site and try to squeeze in buildings in amongst them, it gets a little more challenging because the prior scenario included putting a building very close to the San Mateo County line. And that was, I think, the issue that Director Riffle was meaning, that we had to start negotiations with San Mateo County to see how close we could get to that county line. If we were to start over and remove some of the buildings, we can focus our attention on developing the site in Santa Clara County itself and reducing an actual building proximity to San Mateo County. But it's a little too soon to say exactly, but that was one of the considerations from the prior study.
Sure, thank you, that's helpful. And my second question has to do with Cloverdale and to what degree the Skyline Field office will be servicing Cloverdale, or whether we're looking for that to be the coastal field office, or whether there'll be, I'm guessing there'll probably be a blend, but just curious if you can talk a little bit about that.
Brandon, I can add, and then you can continue if there's more. So, given the location of Cloverdale and the plan to have a coastal area office, a full service coastal office, my sense is that the proximity alone, having the coastal office be the central point for Cloverdale will make the most sense. Just in terms of geography and travel time, et cetera. But we don't have a full service coastal office at this time, and it's going to take us a while to get there. So Skyline Field Office is it. And part of the reason why we're moving forward with this remodel project is we have all these additional properties now that are all being serviced from the Skyline Field Office. And the capacity, we're already over capacity in terms of, everything, staffing space, material space, equipment space, everything. So we're breaking, and we definitely need to address that.
Thank you. And just a quick follow-up on that, then are we envisioning that once a coastal field office is established, that we'll abandon the outpost, or keep that?
We're not there yet to make that decision. So there may be a use for that small office space as a potentially maybe an in-between stop between the two offices perhaps. So we're not there yet to decide whether or not that would still be utilized as office space. It could still be.
The reason I ask is just simply response time to Cloverdale. Having some assets still at that coastal outpost office could, expedite some kind of emergency response at Cloverdale if necessary. So that's just what I was thinking.
Brandon Stewart, Land Facilities Manager. So I won't open up the whole can of worms with the CAO use permit because we've been going through that for quite some time, but there are some significant limitations to what we can do at that site and also equipment that we can store. So that's something that the team is working on right now. And we're trying to meet those recommendations from the county. However, it's going to be much reduced than what we early anticipated. However, to kind of dovetail on what Anna had mentioned, right now our maintenance priorities at Cloverdale are pretty low because it hasn't been fully planned and no additional trails have been expanded upon. And so our main focus is in the early summer in order for us to brush all the roads. And that's about a 3-week process. So once we get through that 3-week process of brushing the roads, then we won't need staff to be out there on that site until we fully develop that area. So that's where we're at.
Okay, well, actually, maybe I'll just add one question at this point, which is, just given the constraints at Skyline and, the need for, a large, hopefully, more flatter area. So has staff looked at other sites anywhere in the Bay, anywhere in our district? I mean, it could be along 85, or it could be, coast or.
Yeah, we did look at some other alternate sites. They would require significant investment in terms of utilities, driveway access, and in discussions with field staff, having the location is very desirable for the operations that are out there. So they weren't interested in moving too far from kind of that core Skyline corridor. So if we did look at a couple other sites, that would be a significant investment just in terms of feasibility and figuring out kind of the infrastructure and being able to even develop the site.
And I'd just like to add to Susanna Ruiz, General Manager, that, the fact that we have an office that is sort of at the heart of our land holdings in the Skyline corridor, and that it is also embedded within the Skyline community is a huge plus. I think in many ways, we've been very lucky to be able to have that facility there. And given the infrastructure that is already there, it is a disturbed site, and that, it's been functioning as a field office for decades. It really is probably the best location for a Skyline area office. I would say for many
If you don't
reasons-
call it Skyline area, it could be, the central.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
to have to have a field office in that region there, it
Yeah.
has been very helpful.
Oh, okay. Yes, Director Holman.
So help me understand then how that comports with when we did the site tour. And again, thank you immeasurably for the site tour. There was some conversation, as I heard it, about maybe moving some of the larger parked vehicles to an off-site location. So I'm not hearing that as part of this discussion. Such a facility for that wouldn't require a lot of infrastructure. And I look at this site and it's kind of like, it's not level. So anyway, so that's the question.
Thank you for the question. We will look at that when we talk about the options before you, but the moving some of the storage off-site, like you said, wouldn't require as much infrastructure development because we wouldn't need utilities. So it would free up some available space. It, of course, wouldn't centralize everything together, but that's like a trade-off that the board will have to decide.
Okay, thank you very much.
So in order to better understand the existing conditions and operational needs of staff at the Skyline Field Office, we conducted a needs assessment report. The findings in the report are based on staff interviews, an online survey, and site tours. The key takeaway from the report is that the Skyline Field Office cannot accommodate additional growth, and I'll go into specifics in the next few slides. This is a map of the Skyline Field Office site. I'll share photos from the site, but I wanted to share the overall site map and also mention that utility needs are foundational to this entire site. And these include, more power, more backup power, additional water storage to meet fire permit requirements, and septic system upgrades. So there are 4 different locker rooms. The women's locker room is located in the main office. It has 1 toilet, 1 sink, 1 shower, and 10 half-size lockers. The men's locker room is located in the main office as well. It has 1 toilet, 1 urinal, 1 sink, 2 showers, and 24 half-size lockers. The locker room in the bunkhouse has 1 toilet, 2 showers, and 9 full lockers. And the locker room in the stables has 1 toilet and 9 full lockers. The overall locker room needs are that staff need more locker room space. So this is space for storing their day-to-day gear, enough showers and restrooms to accommodate numbers, sufficient drying racks to dry wet gear overnight, improve ventilation and climate control, and more space for changing. The Skyline Field Office has 3 offices that are shared by 6 people. There's also 4 hoteling spaces for staff to use in the main office. The administrative assistant desk is located in the main office area, and some of the improvements to this space include having private offices, focus rooms, more hoteling workstations, a meeting room, and just improved layout and functionality of the space. A mudroom would also be beneficial so that staff could take off kind of wet gear before entering the office space. The conference room is a multi-purpose room. It's the only meeting room available. It does have 2 hoteling workstations, an evidence locker, and video conference capabilities. Staff use the space as a break room or stretching room as well, and it's used to store items. The deck is located right outside the conference room. The needs for the space include easy, well-functioning video conferencing capabilities, dedicated storage space, and more flexibility with the use of the space, a separate dedicated break room, and a larger evidence locker. The kitchen is located at the end of a short hall outside the conference room in the office. It consists of a sink, refrigerator, and dishwasher. A shelf was added to accommodate more appliances and storage. Improvements of the space include more counter space, a stovetop and oven, a full-size fridge, and whether it's in the kitchen or elsewhere, it's important to have the water and the ice machine next to each other and easily accessible. We took a time-lapse video just to show some of the activity that occurs during the morning. So there are 3 shifts that are staggered in order to accommodate staff numbers. And let me make it bigger. Some of the things to look for, you can kind of peer through the windows and see some of the activity that's happening behind as people load up their trucks. You can see some of the collaboration that happens when people are together, the information sharing, the ease of being able to distribute different crews and move employees around. Where staggering shifts can sometimes be a challenge for that. And then one of the vehicles kind of backs up into through the window. You can see it back up into the fueling area. So this shift happens from about 6:55 to a little before 7:30. So you're seeing one of the shifts.
I knew our staff was effective, but I had no idea that effective. They move quick. Wow.
They move fast.
No wonder they get so much work done.
I kept wondering like when the bird was going to hat. It's like, it's those kind of videos.
So moving on to the rest of the Skyline Field office site, there's a temporary trailer located next to the main office, and that's used for personal gear storage and first aid supplies. In general, staff need enough space to be able to store their gear and have it be centralized. And so I'm thinking of safety gear, winter gear, fire gear. So personal gear, but not gear that's needed day to day. Parking is scattered and often lacking. There are 2 fueling stations. These were based on district use at the time of install, which was gasoline and diesel. As Brandon mentioned, there is no electrical vehicle charging station. So more parking is needed for both staff vehicles and fleet vehicles. And then we need those charging stations to meet those regulations that Brandon had talked about. The circulation around the site is also poor, particularly for large equipment and trailers. The shop is made of a main shop area and a few adjacent rooms, which include a wood shop, a chainsaw room, and a welding room. The size of the buildings limit the number of people that can work in the space, as well as the space that's available for tools, the size of the equipment that can fit in the space, and then having a shop with pull-through capabilities and a lift to service vehicles would really improve the functionality of the space. Storage is scattered throughout the site. The next few slides are photos of some of the equipment, vehicles, and materials that are stored at the site. Here are a few extra photos. And so the storage needs are really for more storage space, for that space to be consolidated, temperature controlled, rodent proof, and allow for ease of loading and unloading. Also having protection for equipment, expensive equipment from the elements is important. The yard is where trailers and some materials are stored. The circulation and drainage around this area are poor and need improvements, and trucks with trailers back down the hill in order to park there. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Foothills Field Office as an example of some of the recommendations that I've mentioned. So one of the first things you can see from this aerial is that the Foothills Field Office is a little bit larger. It's 2 acres, and it's a flatter site, and it has a large space for vehicles, a turnaround, and consolidated storage. So shifting to the Foothills Field Office, when you enter the site, you can see it's a one-way loop, starting with the administrative office, followed by the shop with those 2 doors, roll-up doors. Then those, we'll go into the shop in a little bit. As you turn to go around the shop, you can see some of the storage that's on site. And then on the other side of the shop, there's a large area for materials, covered storage for equipment, and lots of parking and room for all the vehicles and equipment, particularly in the morning when things get hectic. The shop in the lower left photo has 2 roll-up doors on each side of it. So it's a little dark, but basically you can pull a vehicle all the way through. This is the interior of the shop. So it has 2 stories, the main area, and then to the right on the bottom floor, there's some working space, and on the top floor, there's storage. So I'm going to share a couple videos. You're looking at the shop, and then on the top floor, above kind of those working rooms, this is all the storage, and as you can see, it's really nicely organized. It's consolidated. It's accessible. of a nice example. Oops. And so here's kind of a video of the site. So as you drive around the shop, to the right, there's this, which you're not going to see in this video, but there's this whole open area where you can take materials. And then you see kind of the covered storage area for the large equipment that protects it from the elements. You have the shop on the left, and then lots of space to kind of get around. And it's in general kind of a one-way route. And then you have the office. I didn't realize it has. So that kind of shows you the circulation around the site, which is really critical. And then I have one more video.
Is this for a fewer number of people though?
How many people are it? Good question. So this video shows just some of the congestion that you can imagine is easier to manage here in this big open flat space than at Skyline Field office. This was at about 9:30, so not really like key business time. But as you can see, it's really helpful to have the space to for load up, service, vehicles, on fuel.
So just a couple of things that I'd like to highlight, thanks, Golly, is you see how wide open that space is, which allows for a lot of traffic to move around, right? So the sooner that we can load equipment and the sooner we can get out of the yard means the sooner we can get out and actually do work. And you don't have all these weird pinch points and moving and maneuvering around people like we do up at the SFO. And that helps the operation in multiple ways. One of them is just operational efficiency and productivity. Our staff is just a little bit more productive out of the FFO region just because of the efficiency of how they move around. But the additional thing that I'd like to highlight here is the fact that everybody at the FFO and the SAO, they all start at the same time. So that gives the supervisors the ability to, in the moment, to move people around if someone calls in sick or if someone's on vacation and they need to move a person off the SAO and move them over to the FFO. They can all move seamlessly as one unit, which gives them a little bit more flexibility and resiliency to adapt and adaptability to meet the needs of the day or the week. It also gives us the ability to share knowledge because we're communicating in real time, right? So at the FFO region, they have a morning meeting where they transmit on Teams and everybody's getting an assignment at the same time. So everybody knows where everybody's at and what everybody's doing in that moment. So in case you got called out on emergency, you would know, hey, I need you to go over to such and such preserves and pick up Frank because he's got to go back in because his child's sick and he needs to go back in and take care of his child. Everybody knows where everybody's at. And that may not seem like a big deal, but over the course of months and years, it is, because it does reduce the stress of supervisors with trying to manipulate and move crews around. Additionally, because you're hearing the game plan for the day all at the same time, it gives younger staff the ability to be paired up with older staff. So then that way that knowledge can be transferred. So for example, if If Valerie needed a little bit of extra time on a tractor and Brian Fair was spending a little bit of time and he needed a spotter, then we could easily match Valerie with Brian for that day or for that week. Whereas at SFO, because we have 3 different shifts that are starting at 3 different times, they have to change their schedules around in order for that collaboration to happen. It's not impossible, but it just adds another layer of challenge to the supervisors. And my concern is that moving forward, there's resistance to push that opportunity for younger staff because it just is a little bit more work for supervisors to coordinate from supervisors from other timeframes in order to make that happen for younger staff. They've done a great job, and I'm not dissing what Craig and the supervisors have done up there. I'm just saying as we move forward and expand staff, it's going to become exponentially more challenging for the supervisors to schedule staff to give those folks opportunities for professional growth and development. We also have communication breakdowns more frequently in operations like that. So, people might not get that they're going to go relieve someone over here or move a tractor over there. So you just have to make sure that you're really communicating effectively when you're running 3 different shifts, because things can fall through the cracks more easily than if we run one single shift like we do at FFO. So I can see as we grow, all the systems that Craig and the other supervisors up there at the SFO put in place to make sure that nothing falls through the cracks is going to become more challenging for them to do so.
Let's see, is it time for questions at this point?
We can certainly pause for questions.
Sure.
I actually had a question, Brandon. I wasn't quite sure how, what you were talking about with the Foothills Field office relates to the Skyline Field office. And it seems like they're 2 different things. So
Can you explain, Brandon? Part of it is the shifts and why in one office we can have everyone come in at the same time versus at Skyline, given the constraints, you need the shifts.
Right. Yeah.
Got it.
Because of the size, and we did a good job of capturing it in that video, but that's just the middle shift. So we've got 3 different shifts. One that starts at 6:30 Monday through Thursday, one that starts at 6:30 Tuesday through Friday, and then one starts at 7 Monday through Friday. So all those shifts overlap in order to reduce the number of people in that moment.
So given that there's almost twice as many people out of the Skyline Field office, we think, does it seem feasible that you might be able to do the same thing up there?
Yes, that's my
happening.
goal. My goal is to have everybody starting on the same shift. There will be needs where we might need to run 410s in order for us to meet project goals, which was what we have done in the past. But because we've grown so much that now those 410s have just become a way for us to operate more effectively, just because of our site constraints or our size constraints. But I would like to see, if possible, my goal would be have everybody starting at the same time, similar to Foothills. And that also gives people within the Foothills region the opportunity. So as we look to cross collaborate, not only within a region, but also cross regionally, because right now we don't do that as often. And I would really in the future like my FFO staff to have the ability to work on a project out of the SFO, because they might get more opportunities to work on culverts and bridges out of the SFO region that they might not get at the FFO region. So it just makes that ability much smoother in that transition.
We can take some more questions. I'm just kind of also keeping time on my eye on the clock, and I know there's a lot to get through, but if you want some decisions from the board, I need at least 20 or 30 minutes for the board. So,
Okay.
So do you want to are there any super quick questions at this point? Okay.
I'll try to be one thing that really jumped out at me is 1.5 versus 2 acres, but that 2 acres is very flat.
Yeah, it's more usable
And
space.
so maybe at some point, I was just wondering what options do we have to make more flat space available at Skyline, or is that part of the plan?
One of the things I want to add is one of the options before you is consideration of a complete redevelopment of the site. Part of the reason is because we have so many constraints with both the existing layout, the existing topography, and I'm sure there's a few other things that I'm missing. If we have a greater ability to really reimagine the site, then we have flexibility on maybe multiple stories, maybe doing some grading here and there with some retaining walls, et cetera, to really expand the buildable footprint to meet as much of the need as possible here, and hopefully not to have to require another site where we're storing materials and equipment.
Which I think we did at the Foothills office. We've done some grading. We've moved some earth there, right? Yeah. Oh, sorry. Which we did at the Foothill Field office. I think we've moved dirt. I'm looking for the old pros out there. No?
You know, I'm trying to remember.
Right.
Luckily, it was largely flat overall, but yes, there was some grading work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Tina Hugg, senior planner, there has been some work, but not extensive because it started that way. It hasn't needed as much.
And so, yeah, my quick question was, multiple stories are allowed on Skyline, is that right? 2 or 3
Yes.
story buildings?
Yeah, it is allowed. There
It
is,
is? Wow.
depending on the scenic corridor
Oh.
distance, and where it is. So, there's obviously some constraints, but
Okay, well, that's big, okay. Karen?
So, a clarification on some things. So there are 2 options put before the board, and I support both of those options. One of the reasons is because there's, I think, some more exploration needs to be done about, like, what facilities should be separated from the rest, and for convenience of staff and privacy and for break time, and and one of the things that I do want to point out is when we were there on the tour, the stable actually has a second story.
Mm.
It needs a new access, but it has a second story, and there's about, we guess, maybe like 700 square feet up there, and it's a really cool building. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the final decision is going to be, but I think it makes prudent sense to explore rather than moving a lot of dirt around, which I'm kind of like, at doing that off the cuff. At least is looking at what's there, what can be changed, what can be relocated, what needs to be rebuilt, and what can be retained to maximize efficiency and the uniqueness of the site, and actually be quite facilitous to the workers. Oh, how many? It's 52 employees now, and do we anticipate what that's going to be?
tonight you will hear an item for the FOSM update that will provide some estimated staffing numbers, and then more details are coming.
Yeah, more details will come in terms of numbers, but know that there will be growth. There will definitely be growth. And even when we, hopefully, fingers crossed, we get a full service coastal office, there's still growth in the Skyline region because we continue to open new areas to the public, new preserve areas, bring in additional facilities, trails, parking areas, et cetera. So there definitely will be continued growth. Now, regarding the pathways, just something for you all to think about, because I know that the board is also interested in efficiencies, is we can study multiple pathways, but know that that will take additional time because we will be studying different possible approaches before you then decide on an approach that we then take to then further flesh out. We can do that, but I just caution you, the need is great. The need was probably like a decade ago almost. And so we're trying to make up for lost time. And then also, just thinking about the site is so challenged and constrained the way it is, that it will be very difficult for us to be able to meet all the needs if we're trying to adapt with what's there. So it's going to be hard. It will be really hard, and we probably won't be able to meet all the needs. And we'll probably need some accessory satellite areas to meet all that. So that is a trade-off. So I just want to, make sure that you understood all that.
So I did read the FOSM report that we have. I don't recall seeing in that an indication of what they thought the SFO field office would grow to. I don't remember seeing anything about that.
No, not for SFO in particular, but there is a total growth in general that they provided with an understanding that much of that growth is happening in the field. The actual number, numbers in terms of departments and whatnot will be coming in November.
And this is a reaction, not a response. And there are many things in Midpen's work that the fastest way is not necessarily the best way. And with this project, it's, yes, there's a need that exists and such, but the general manager's recommendation is to explore two paths. Then there's an alternative, but none of us up here are designers. So yes, I want to get something done in an expedient fashion, but speed is not my first priority.
Well, and well, as we travel this path tonight, obviously there's a lot to think about. Is there is one option for the board to think about, which is as we planned for AO, we did have an ad hoc facilities committee, that board committee. So I mean, if there's enough complexity, enough interest on the board, it's something that we can talk about as well. But at this point, let's turn it back to staff.
I will go very quickly through the next one so we can get to the discussion. So I don't think I need to summarize the findings. Basically, we need more space. And then we'll get to project goals. So these are the project goals. We can spend some time on these goals, but I think maybe we should get to the pathways question. And then if we have time, get back to these goals, just because that's seems to be where the discussion is happening. So looking at the process, we want to hire a design team to evaluate feasibility and start preliminary site planning. As we talked about, they can evaluate one or two paths forward. So tonight the board will decide if we simultaneously study both options or if we just study one option. And based on the board's decision, staff will write a scope of work for an RFP to hire this consultant team.
Let's see, did you say you were going to go back to the goals? Because
It's up to you if you want
yeah,
to talk about it. I
well,
was feeling crunched for time.
I guess so, but I since it is one of the items we're supposed to,
Yes.
why don't you review that quickly for us?
Thank you. So the project goals are to address the facility deficiencies and improve functionality, address the needs related to administration, shop, utilities, parking, circulation, materials, all the things we talked about in the needs assessment report, accommodate current and projected staff growth for the next 30 or 40 years, looking holistically at the skyline and coastal regions, incorporate design elements to reflect and complement the existing character of the site, include sustainable building and site features that support a climate action plan priorities and climate-related mandates, and maintain internal equity for staff facilities.
Do you want to discuss these for now?
Yeah, why don't we spend a couple minutes talking about these goals? And yes, go ahead.
I like these. The wording may can change, but I think for the most part, I'm pretty good with these. The only one that I would almost add, number 7, and this kind of gets a little bit at Director Holman's question, but I actually come out a little bit differently than I think where Director Holman is. I think there's an element of time that we've pushed this thing off for 10 years. So I think we need to catch up here a little bit. So I think there should be part of a goal is we need to be expedient in coming up with, even if we have to phase it, let's get going on this. And that didn't really jump out at me as we've got a problem here that's not, it's only going to get worse. So let's get going. I don't know how you want to word that, but that's what I thought.
Okay, Dr. Holman. Oh, Zoe, go ahead. Okay, thank you. I guess my question would be, if we were to opt for the two options, have them studied simultaneously, would part of that scope of work involve which option would meet these goals more effectively? So that's what and would it also, could it also include a timeline for meeting these goals?
Yes.
Okay, and a cost, of course. So those three things. So, okay, thank you.
Okay. let's see, you were next and then,
Yeah, there's, as far as I know, there's nothing here that's historic, so it's not about that. I mean, maybe there is, maybe there isn't, I don't know. But it's not about that. It's with me, it's about, how do we maintain character and how do we not, create the waste from, eliminating existing buildings. I mean, again, I'm not I've been involved in stuff, but I'm not really a designer, but to me, it's, this office building was built 27 years ago. To think of just eliminating it seems like really almost irresponsible. 27 years, the life cycle of a building.
mm.
And the other thing is, when I was there,
But would that be included in that number 5?
it could be, it
Yeah.
could be. And to me, it seems like just one thought, 2 thoughts is, when I was there and we were walking around, it seems like to me that possibly, the main building could be all offices or mostly offices. It's got a huge meeting room that's rarely used, it seems like. And that just seemed like such inefficient use of space. And the other is, I would hope when this goes out for whoever, that there's a little more information about, okay, would it be good for the lockers to be, there's some conversation about here, but not enough for me, as I read it, for a designer of any ilk to look at, okay, would all the lockers be in a separate building, and offsite from, so to me, there's more information that's needed for anybody to do an evaluation than what's in this report, because there are ways to use a site that might or might, well, probably wouldn't, well, I shouldn't say this, might or might not be in one big building. I would suggest that that's not really in keeping with the area, but that might not even be the best for the workers who were there, given the kind of work they do and the kind of, my impression, kind of a little bit of independence that they have out in the field and might like to convey to the workspaces that we're talking about. So a creative hand based on solid information needs to be applied to this. And for me, that requires both avenues to be pursued, and they can be pursued quickly.
Okay, well, let's come back. Oh, let's see. Oh, Director Gleason, sorry.
Yeah, I think this might be implicit in here, but if I understood Brandon correctly, there's a really important change in working model that you want from the multiple shifts to single shift. And I'm just wondering if that should be made explicit in these goals.
I think that's something we could incorporate. Some of the feedback when we did have our department meeting, our first department meeting since I've been here, from the younger staff, was that they really liked the model, the younger staff from the SFO. They really liked the model out of FFO, which gives everybody the opportunity to mingle and share knowledge and be able to kind of cross collaborate. That is more challenged at the SFO. So I'm hearing directly from staff that they'd like to see that model up at SFO more often. And the space that we have now cannot facilitate that. When we have morning meetings, or even when we have all staff meetings, staff up at the Skyline region are in the shop and in the break, or in the utility room, the boardroom that we have in there, because they can't all fit in there. So even in an all staff meeting, not all staff can meet in the same space at SFO. So this creates challenges, right? It creates barriers, it creates silos. And that's what I'm trying to reduce in order for us to just, because it does impact our culture in our department. So I'm really trying to reduce the physical space, the physical barriers, in order for us to have more of that cross collaboration and really define our culture as a department moving forward. And we started that work this last summer.
Okay, but I do have a question here first,
Okay,
related to this one.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
okay.
just wanted to, I agree with Director Gleason, and only because I've been involved in one of these projects where if you build it right, it actually enhances how people work. And I wasn't a believer until I saw it. And so I would agree with where Director Gleason, I think, is going. Thank you.
Okay. Did you? Yes.
I sort of have some comments. I don't know if this is appropriate time for them, but I sort of live there, and I have so much admiration for the rangers who are up there in the middle of a howling storm. And I'm wondering what the rangers would probably like an upgraded facility. I also know that with regard to this climate change, number 5, in the last 20 years, 27 years, utilities and efficiency have come a long way. You can insulate your building better and use less heat. You can, air conditioning machines are considerably more efficient than they used to be. I just think that a brand new building would be the most efficient in terms of climate usage, fossil fuel usage. I hate to see that place go because it's kind of, cute. But I'm thinking that with that county line being right there, we could build a nice, efficient, well insulated, etc. place on the Santa Cruz side, and then put the chicken coop, all those wonderful relics the staff have in their conference room, and make a little sort of history museum on the San Mateo side in the chicken coop. It's a beautiful little chicken coop, and I do hope that that stays. And then one final thing is, I can see the county being pretty sticky about that driveway, but if it is a scenic corridor, and staff here knows it's a scenic corridor, so it would be nice to keep that entrance as low-key like it is right now. And if I could make the choice for you, get those graders tomorrow and give the staff a nice new building. But I know I'm rushing to judgment, so I really appreciate all this conversation. I just feel it would make life so much easier for staff if they have a better layout. Sorry, I've gone on way too long.
Okay, no, that's very helpful. So I think basically at this point we're so have you finished your presentation, or do you have a little bit more?
I just have a tiny bit
Okay,
more,
why don't we
and
finish
I
up
think some
and,
will clarify just a couple things.
Okay, and then I'll bring it back
And
to
then we'll
the
bring
board for discussion. Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
So the two options before you. So one is to move forward with both options, as we talked about, renovating the existing facilities or completely redeveloping the site, or moving with just one option of redeveloping the site. Some of the reasons for that is that we know the site constraints, that the existing buildings were not designed to support this full service field office and yard and the added time. But I just kind of wanted to mention the step about initiating planning and design. The consultant team will do what you mentioned, Director Holman. I agree, this isn't enough information for them to just start, sketching. So there's going to be all this information. This is just one report that's going to be given to them. And then there's going to be many, many discussions with field staff. And I wanted that to be directly with the consultant team so that they can really kind of start to understand the functionality and the needs. And what I'm presenting with the needs assessment report are really kind of just the basic baseline conditions. So with
what was it? Can I see that last slide again?
Oh.
Okay, so the point about the return to the board, I mean, what was staff thinking about that?
Oh, thank you. So we would return to the board with key project decisions. So the next one would be the awarded contract for the design team. And then they would begin pre-planning work. So figuring out the space requirements, how many restrooms and showers are needed, kind of really diving into those kinds of questions. And then putting together feasibility. So we would know then how much space is required and what the layout can really do with some cost estimates. And then we would return to the board with that. I think that's a key project milestone, and then go into 30% and 60% design.
Okay, and this is your last
Yes.
slide?
Wait,
Okay.
I thought there was one more. Wasn't there one more slide?
Was there a next
It's
slide?
the general
Oh,
manager.
General
Sorry,
manager's
sorry,
recommendation.
Ellen.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's see. Well, can I just kind of summarize kind of where I think we need to go? So you're asking us to, obviously, number one is receive. Number two is review and approve the goals. And we've already received a few, good suggestions for goals. And actually, I have one or two that I'd like to add myself. So there's a little bit of more work to do on the goals. And then the discussion about the scope. And then really the fourth really is if whether we can finish up the goals tonight and send you on your way, and we make a decision on the three, or do we want to think about that on an ad hoc board committee or not? So, okay, well, Director Holman is first. So yes, if maybe each board member can kind of give their brief input on all three of those topics: the goals, the scope, and just the process going forward.
And
President
just
Keisha.
really, go ahead, because
President
we have
Keisha.
one goal to add.
We added one additional goal. If we can go ahead and bring that up so you can take a look at it as you discuss. Is that okay?
Okay.
Can you bring that up on this slide again? I added it to them.
Oh, thank
Yeah, and there's,
Project goals. If we're going to be working on the goals, okay. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay. Okay, well,
I can
let's see,
change the
okay,
design.
let's kind of take
If we
overall
can-
comments first, and then we'll come back and wordsmith the goals.
Okay, so regarding the goals, there's one other that, perhaps two other that I would add. One is, if you could go back to the goals. There's perhaps two others that I would add. One is something that was
sorry.
mentioned a great deal, and maybe it's not part of the project, maybe it's something separate, but the lack of good internet access was mentioned a few times when we were doing the tour. So
Really?
again, I don't know if that's part of the scope of this,
Sorry,
but
thought we had pretty good fiber up there.
yeah, so that's what I thought I heard several times.
Brandon, do you have information on internet access?
Yeah,
Go
ahead.
Brandon Stewart, Land and Facilities Manager. So right at the beginning of COVID, we did bring fiber up to that area. So they do have high-speed internet, which allows them to stream video. The challenge at that site is that cellular service is really bad.
Oh,
And
cellular
so,
service,
yeah, so
okay.
cellular service there is awful. As probably Margaret, you can relate, but the high-speed internet at that location actually is pretty good.
Okay,
Yeah.
so should enhanced cellular service be one of the goals here?
We could
That
look
we could-
into that. We could work with IST to look into that with some sort of a booster. I'm not sure that's way out of my league, but I
And
can.
mine too, but I heard it as a lacking here.
Okay, yeah, maybe we can add that to the goals or talk about that.
I think that's included in utilities. Yeah,
Under utilities, okay.
It's under utility, okay,
Yeah.
all right. Okay, and then regarding the steps forward, there's a term that I don't like to use. I always view it as kind of a negative term, but I don't know what else to use in this regard. There are two pathways here. And the term that I don't like to use is it's a false choice, is because the first one is a very stringent reuse and renovation of existing facilities. And the second one is redevelopment of the site. And I don't know why it couldn't be a blending of the two. Again, I mentioned the one building is built in 1997, which is only 27 years old. And there's nothing that was stated anyway about it being an inadequate physically building. So to me, it's not a one or two. It's like we put it out for bid and that people have the opportunity or the option of reusing what's there, relocating what's there, or building something new. And we let the experts decide that. But this is a very rigid choice that's put before us tonight. Very rigid. Director McNiven mentioned something akin to this about like, moving the chicken coop. Well, it's not very big, but still, but it's a step in the direction of what I think we ought to responsibly be considering.
Okay, thank you. Well, let's hear from the other board members. So yes, Director Kirsten Tucker.
Okay, I'm going to take the opposite tack. I actually am very much in favor of redeveloping the site. And I would also like to see an ad hoc committee be brought to bear on that redevelopment, with the notion that perhaps some elements, some historic pieces could be left or highlighted at the existing site. I don't see any reason why that couldn't happen, but to stall the project, what keeps coming to mind for me is Bear Creek Stables and kind of the legacy of old buildings that we're trying to retrofit and fix and deal with the county and all that. Several of the buildings at the field office are they're old buildings that came with the site, so they're not new. So I'm very much in favor of the second alternative, moving forward with that quickly and pulling together an ad hoc committee to help guide that process.
Did you have any
With regard to the goals, I absolutely agree with Craig's suggestion and with making this be as expeditious as possible, which I think being able to simplify the two counties who have to work on this site, whichever, I'm guessing that the second alternative helps with that. Very much in favor of that. And I think that's all I have with regard to the project goals.
Director Holman had a question for you.
Yeah, can I just clarify what my intention is? And what you stated actually is not number 2 either. Because you're talking about redeveloping the site, but redeveloping the site in number 2 says demolish all the buildings. And yet you're talking about maybe some of the buildings could or should stay. So, and that's what I'm talking about, is a blending of those two.
Not really.
I see.
And I don't see it taking longer. I don't see it taking longer for one path for designers to decide, what do we do? What buildings go away? What buildings stay? What buildings? I don't see how it takes longer. It's a site design.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I do see your point about, I mean, do we need to say demolish all the buildings? I mean, it could be redevelopment of the site without saying demolish all the buildings, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, we can go back to that. Oh, so thank you for your overall comments. Other board members we haven't heard from? Yes, Director Gleason.
Yeah, just back to the goals. So I definitely support adding the goal 7. I think if self-service is a key issue, then maybe we should just add it in here as well.
What did you say?
Under utilities.
Self-service.
Self-service.
I mean-
Self-service. Oh,
Covered in
Covered in utilities.
I understand that. What I'm saying is if there's actually a critical issue with it, maybe we should call it out, because we've called out one.
I see,
particular-
including backup power
Right.
and improving
Anyway,
self-service or whatever.
I think that's
Okay.
not the critical thing. I think just listening to this discussion, it seems like people are in favor of moving forward quickly, right? Doing something decisive, but I would also support this sort of, hybrid thinking where we at least try to identify, are there pieces of what's there that we would want to keep, right? And I think several people have brought up specific ones. I'm not so familiar with it, so I can't offer anything specific, but I think it would make sense to do that, even in the spirit of, we want to do a major redevelopment of the site, but let's at least figure out what's there that we might want to keep or reuse.
Okay.
I could clarify that. The chicken coop is already in San Mateo County. It's been moved. It doesn't have to be moved. Everything else can go.
Okay. All right. Well, let me add a couple comments. I guess on the goals. Let's see. So I've heard comments about timeliness and cost. And yeah, I kind of think back to the AO goals and such, and one of the major AO goals was to, attract and retain staff, so it does go back to kind of the whole staff, supporting staff, health and support. And so, I mean, so I would add something about that. And as one way to achieve it, I mean, it did occur to me that, there's really no good workout room, right? So, I mean, that I would kind of add that to the wish list myself. I mean, if I were up there, because there's no gym up there, right? So, and let's see. Well, we talked about fire. I mean, I suppose should we consider that part of the goals already?
Yeah, I just mentioned it as well. Just the wildfire resiliency.
Oh,
of the
you
site-
mentioned that?
of the
Yeah.
site. No, I was going to.
Oh, you were
mention
going to mention that.
that-
Okay.
that-
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think
I don't know
that's-
if that needs to be, or whether the wildland fire resiliency should be added as a goal and as a project goal or not. And then on the choice, yes, I think we're coming, well, what I hear is, and I agree, which is, I mean, overall to allow, a holistic redevelopment of the site, but not necessarily mandate demolish all buildings. Yeah. Yes.
I have a thought about that.
Okay.
With regard to the way it's written here at our board report, it says currently redevelopment of the site, demolish all buildings and reorganize and rebuild. I think we could simply remove the demolish all buildings and start with reorganize and rebuild the site and facilities to maximize efficiency.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that would leave the option for if there are existing facilities that seem like they could effectively be repurposed,
That would be allowed. Yeah.
we could make that happen.
Mhm.
Yes. Quick comment. Yes. Go ahead. Oh, yeah. Your comments.
Are you
Go.
done?
Yes, I think so. Let me see. Yeah, the only other thing I had noticed when I was reading the report was about the choice about the emergency, whether it serves a function as a community emergency, what is it called? Just a
Command center?
Communication center. Yeah. But it doesn't seem like it's a major topic. Is there like an urgent need for that, or is that a important decision for the board to make?
Hi, Chris Bresci, Area Superintendent. The office does serve as a potential incident command center during emergencies, not
Alright,
just
it
for
already
staff,
does.
but also for neighbors.
Yeah.
And the main crux of that, which is identified under utilities, is the backup power,
I
to
see.
have backup power.
Okay, which we'd probably be adding anyways. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. And then I guess I mean, it seems like it would be, I mean, I would support an ad hoc board committee myself, because I think it's going to be, I mean, we're setting a lot of this right goals at this point, but there would be enough decisions along the way that there would be a need for a board committee for the staff to consult with. Okay, Director Sear.
Thank you. I'm listening to a lot of different things. I want to start at, one or two. I think it's a blend that really needs to happen.
Okay.
And the word that sort of jumps at me, and I'm reflecting on, Karen's comment about the 27-year-old building. The key to me is flexibility, because you project this out at 10 years, project it out 20 years. Look, we had the fire resiliency thing hit us, we had COVID hit us, we had X, Y, and Z hit us. We don't know what this site is going to have to contend with. So however we can come to this as quickly as reasonable and as economically as reasonable. But I think that the design in mind of
Being
adaptable.
Okay.
Because that's probably the most significant thing, at least in my mind, about what needs to evolve out of this change in the site.
Okay, very good. Director Riffle.
Okay. First, a quick question, because we haven't addressed it, and then I'd like to make some comments. So we have a trail that goes right through this site, and I've been on that trail a few times when we were moving equipment around, and everybody was cool about it, but we've got a trail that goes right through there. So I was just wondering about, would we be thinking about rerouting that or doing something different? Hey, Rich.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be part of the site design, as we'd have to explore the feasibility. I don't know if we can reroute that trail, but it would be beneficial for sure to be able to separate the public use from district operation
Right.
use.
So I don't know if that's worthy of a
Mhm.
goal,
Mhm.
but that is something that we need to factor in,
Yeah,
because that's connecting basically two preserves,
Yeah.
right there.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
that's a good point.
So my comment is I'm kind of more with Zoe on this is I think it's let's give our designers blank slate, take a look at this. If they've got to demolish in order to meet these goals, then do it. However, if you can save something or repurpose something, which I think is where Karen's trying to go with this, then let's do that.
Mhm.
So I don't think we need to say demolish everything and then start. It's plan it out, and then if you can fix something and reuse it, great. Otherwise, if you can't, that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. So. And
I
then
think that's a good option.
yeah, and then and as far as the ad hoc goes, I think I would rather say, staff, if you think an ad hoc will allow you to move faster, then so be it. I don't know that I want to say create an ad hoc. I almost want staff to say it would help us to move faster to do an ad hoc. Therefore, let's do it.
Could I ask a clarifying question of what the purpose of the ad hoc would be? Would it be to review things before it goes to the board, or would it be to work more closely with staff at like a staff level on these pre-design work?
Yes.
Or both?
Well, if I think about what the ad hoc did on this building, I think that was kind of it tried to do both.
Yeah.
I think so.
But you're right. I mean, the board did actually set the goals. So I
Yeah.
suppose in a way, maybe the ad hoc could help consolidate, confirm the goals and possibly bring it back to the board on the consent calendar or something. And
Okay.
I think the idea was it's easier to get 3 people together than 7 people together
Yes,
and get it
yes.
and get it on
That's
the
right.
public agenda and so on. So that's where I think ad hoc is coming in.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that clarification.
Okay, have we heard from everybody?
Do we want to put timing and cost on this goals, or is that implied?
So what I've heard suggestions from goals, and maybe Maria has captured some of them.
Yeah, they're up.
Yeah,
She's-
they're shown on
you're
this,
there. Okay.
yeah, right,
Yes,
in
yes.
blue.
And what about the trail?
The trail, yeah.
We
Let me
need to
see.
add that as-
Can I ask a clarifying
sometimes-
question? Director Riffle, you mentioned one of the goals being to like expedite the project. Do you want that? Should we add that as number 10, some sort of project goal to expedite, to deliver this in
it's
a
kind-
time
yeah.
efficient manner?
Well, it's kind of time and cost, right?
Time and
So,
cost.
Yeah.
let's-
Okay,
Yeah. Yes, Director Seer.
I keep telling people to use their mic. Seems to me that we're starting to slip into the weeds. If we're calling on a design team to look at the site freshly, my assumption, and maybe I'm wrong, would be that the fact that there is a trail going through the site would be one of the things they would consider. So I just would like us to move to the 10,000-foot level if we can, and
I'm okay with that, Jed, just so we didn't talk about that at all
you're
tonight.
right.
And so
No, I
we can-
appreciate
we can
that you
say-
brought that
I
up.
know- I know staff thought about that, but
Right, right.
we
Okay.
should acknowledge it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that doesn't have to go in the goals.
Right,
Okay.
right.
All right.
So Director Kishimoto, if I could, the one thing I would like to see us do tonight is, I guess what I'm hearing is that we're moving kind of towards a hybrid of what we have here. So what I'd like to see us not do is have two separate pathways that,
Mhm.
you know, we're evaluating.
Right,
But if we can make one pathway,
Right.
kind of like what we talked about, where we,
right.
maybe we say demolish, reorganize, and rebuild to maximize and or rebuild to maximize the efficiency. So give the consultants the maximum flexibility to look at the site,
Mhm.
do what they think is appropriate to meet these project goals, but keep it focused on one
Right.
pathway forward.
So it's basically number 2, but except that we take away the first phrase, which is demolish all the buildings.
We just take away all the buildings. We say demolish, reorganize, and or rebuild the site to maximize efficiency.
demolish, build, or now, what was that again?
Well, I would say demolish, reorganize, and or in other words, you want all 3 options to be available to a consultant.
And or reuse.
And or reuse.
And or
Okay.
demolish, rebuild, reorganize, and or rebuild.
And or rebuild. Okay.
Well, those are all the same. Rebuilding is demolishing and rebuilding, so it's not reuse. So to me, it's like if I was a designer coming at this, I would say, you know, what are the constraints? And what are the goals? The goals are to end up with a functional site based on what the needs are. And so a good designer, a good architect, a good site planner is going to determine whether, okay, this building is not going to be functional going forward. And so the designer is going to say, you know, if we don't put constraints on them, we don't put dictates on them, a designer is going to come up and say, okay, we can reuse this building. Here's what we propose with this building. Here's what we think we can't do with this building. You know, that sort of thing. They're going to come up with that. We don't need to be so finite in directing. We're after goals. We're not after telling them how to do it.
So what if we were to simply say, maximize efficiency of available buildable land and locate as many of the uses at the existing site as possible to centralize ranger and maintenance needs?
Yeah.
So you
that's-
started with reorganize?
No.
Where did you start?
The second line where it says maximize efficiency, take everything else before that off and just say maximize efficiency of available buildable land.
Yeah,
and locate.
So we don't say anything about
Yeah,
what they do with the
exactly.
buildings, right?
Mhm.
Exactly. That's the
Okay.
job of a designer.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Good with that.
Come to an agreement, okay. Well, I think so.
I
Well,
wanted to say thank you, because I certainly would not have felt comfortable with demolish as the lead
right,
term at the beginning of the
Okay,
thing.
Okay,
Somewhere in
good.
there, if it's necessary, fine, but it's not the key thing.
okay. All right, so Maria, did you? Okay.
Well, maybe while we're waiting, so Golly or staff, can you react to anything? Are we being clear here, or are there questions that you still have? Are we heading, we missing something?
Okay, so we've done some work on the goals. We've done some honing down on the scope. So maybe I need some more feedback from the board on, do we need an ad hoc committee?
Well, you heard mine. I think we'll approve an ad hoc committee, but it should be triggered by if staff feels that that's going to move the process.
You're not speaking in your mic.
My feeling is that we can authorize an ad hoc committee, but it should be triggered by staff feeling that would be helpful for the process to move forward.
I can echo that.
I can too.
Oh, does staff want, well, does staff want to make a recommendation at this point, or do you want to have a chance to?
Could I make
talk
a,
about
could I,
it?
could I simply add one comment before we
Yeah.
do?
Uh-huh.
And that is, it seems to me, if we're moving in this direction of kind of a hybrid model, let's wait till we get the report from the consultant and decide at that point, is it appropriate to convene an ad hoc committee?
I mean, I'll wait until we
Wait till we get the
to
report from, you know,
um,
from this.
Well, the next time it was going to come back to the board was when we were going to issue an RFP to the architect, which is a fairly advanced.
Well, we have
it's not-
feasibility with cost estimates. It says return to the board at key project decisions. So at feasibility with cost estimates is a point at which we could decide.
That's a
Maybe-
stage that I do think an ad hoc could be helpful. Once, giving the designers a chance to really dive a little deeper into the space requirements and also knowing some of the key permitting issues that are going to come up and then having some cost estimates. That seems like a really good time. So I don't know what the rules are, but we could authorize an ad hoc committee that staff could pull on if we needed it sooner, but so we don't have to wait to come back and ask for an ad hoc, but that seems like a good time for an ad hoc committee.
Golly, this is Anna Ruiz, General Manager. When we come back to the board with an award of contract, could we bring at that time then formation, and then that way the ad hoc committee could work with us with the design team in developing those design elements?
That's a good option too. Yeah.
Dr. Holman?
I think Dr. Zoe Tucker, Zoe Christine Tucker had a little bit an earlier potential involvement. I sort of see that and tell me if I'm wrong here, that if we're coming to the ad hoc, potentially at least at the time the contract is going to be awarded, we're fairly long down a path. Excuse me, fairly long down a path. So it seems to me like utilization of an ad hoc could potentially be much earlier than that, just to kind of like weigh in and see where things are headed, what's been considered, what hasn't been considered. And the other thing, just to be clear, is it was mentioned that, we're putting this out to an architect, but I think, I don't see it right now, but it's going to a design team. So we're going to a not just architects, right?
It would be a big
we're going to a
team,
site planner
engineers,
and landscape.
yeah, all
Okay.
a full team. And I do want to, if I could just clarify, the RFP for the award of contract, we won't have started work at that point. We're just hiring. Okay.
Absolutely understood. Yeah.
Okay.
But a direction will have been set to some extent.
The direction that you are setting tonight basically will be the scope of work that's going to go into the RFP.
Yeah, just to clarify, if we're moving in the direction of, hybridizing the second alternative, then I would not want to see an ad hoc committee developed until the feasibility with cost estimates point, because I feel like it would just slow the design team down at that point, if it was any sooner than that.
They would not come back at the RFP?
No, I'd wait till the feasibility with
Or
cost
do you want to leave
estimates.
that? Do you want to leave that to staff?
Okay, well, that's fine. That's fine to me. If staff feels like it's appropriate
Yeah.
at the RFP point, but
yeah,
I would.
I think so. Yeah, we
Okay,
can leave the
right.
timing to
All
it.
right, well, we'll take a look at it. I mean, essentially, that is my thought, that we would bring the ad hoc committee during the feasibility cost estimate development, because at that point, we would start looking at what that design could look like, start kind of molding that based on the direction that we've been given today and the project goals that you approved today. But we'll talk more about timing.
Okay, well, yes.
Last thing, could we get a little bit of meat on the bone here in that first bullet? It said hire architect-led design team. Can we get a little bit more meat on the bone here? Like who would be involved in this team?
Yes. See if I can remember it's a pretty long list. Landscape architect, mechanical, structural, plumbing engineers, designers, electrical engineers,
what kind
civil
of-
engineers, geotechnical. It'd be a pretty big team.
What about site designer? I heard designer, but what about site designer?
That
It-
is an architect and a landscape architect together.
Okay.
Can be. Can be. Okay.
Okay, so I think we are a couple minutes before 7, but
I'd be happy to make
we're
a
getting-
motion.
We're getting there.
I'd be happy to make a motion.
Okay.
2 motions, all right, all in one. If we could see the project goals
Let's see. Yes, I think.
as they've been
I-
amended. Okay, that's, all right, I'll move approval of project goals 1 through 11. And the proposed project scope of work would be,
Okay, she has that drafted as well, I believe. Okay, redevelopment of the sites.
So taking off that first
Oh,
line
oh, we're taking off, yeah.
and starting with maximize.
it
Right,
would
right.
be
Yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
maximize efficiency of the available buildable land and locate as many of the uses at the existing site as possible to centralize ranger and maintenance needs.
I'll second that motion. Because it's basically 2 and 3 of the general manager's recommendation, right?
Okay. And,
Yes.
okay, and then the ad hoc one, we're just requesting the staff to
TBD.
come back at
TBD,
that
yeah.
time, at that time, yeah. All right, okay, we have a motion and second. Any questions on the content of that? Do we have any public comment?
We do not have any oral, virtual public comments. Just want to make sure there's no one in the room. No, we do not have
Okay.
any.
All right, so what we're adopting is the goals as we saw, the amended goals.
Mhm.
And then we have the amended project scope. Well, I guess we're gonna wait for the staff to come back with a recommendation is basically what it is on the timing, but I mean, it sounds like the board is supporting basically creation of a.
I didn't hear the
an ad hoc.
question. I'm sorry.
Oh, the question was, it's kind of a chicken and egg, but so the board is supporting the staff coming back with a recommendation for the timing of for the ad hoc.
Okay. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So so what we're adopting is really actually not this per se, but the amended goals as we saw earlier, and then the amended project scope, right? Yeah.
Number 2.
All right. Yes. Okay. And I think any other comments? We're ready for a roll call.
Director Gleason,
Yes.
Director Christine Tucker.
Yes.
Director Riffle.
Yes.
President Kishimoto,
Yes.
Director Holman.
Yeah, is it captured? The maximize, is that captured somewhere?
Yes, I have it in my notes that we will be deleting that first sentence. And is
Okay.
that the one?
So we don't have it here, but you have it.
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Director McNiven.
Yes.
Director Seer.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 7-0.
Okay.
Thank you, directors.
Okay. Well, thank you, Golly and staff and everyone who's worked on this, and thank you, board.
Yeah, and a great field tour. We really appreciate it.
Yes, yeah, the field tour was definitely critical. Yes, 4-minute break is definitely allowed. We will reconvene at 7:06. Let me. Right. Okay. Good evening again, everybody. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Directors for Midpen Open Space. My name is Yoriko Kishimoto, President of the Board of Directors. I'm calling this meeting to order a little bit late, 7:12 p.m. So this meeting is being held in person at our administrative offices and by teleconference. So members of the public are welcome to attend and participate in person or via Zoom, and instructions for submitting public comments are available on the meeting agenda. Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Director Gleason,
Here.
Director Christine Tucker,
Here.
Director Riffle,
Here.
President Kishimoto,
Here.
Director Holman,
Here.
Director McNiven,
Here.
Director Seer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Let's see, we didn't have closed session today. What was there? Is there another closed session to report?
President Kishimoto, on September 25th, the board held a special meeting. It was a closed session meeting and there was no reportable action taken. Thanks.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you very much. And it's time for oral communications. So this is the time in the meeting when we hear from members of the public on matters within the jurisdiction of the district, but not on the agenda tonight. So are there any requests for comments?
President Kishimoto, I do not have any virtual comments or in public. Thank you.
Okay, all right. And time for adoption of agenda. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
This is Director Seer. I move the adoption of the agenda.
I'll second.
We have motion second. Roll call, please.
Director Gleason,
Yes.
Director Christine Tucker,
Yes.
Director Riffle,
Yes.
President Kishimoto,
Yes.
Director Holman,
Yes.
Director McNiven, Director Seer.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you very much. And in the special orders of the day in which we have the pleasure of meeting new staff.
Good evening, board directors. Brandon Stewart, Land and Facilities Manager. So I have the unique privilege of introducing two new staff members to Land and Facilities. The first person I'd like to introduce is Matthew Shapiro. The Land and Facilities Department is excited to welcome a new member to the property management team, Matthew Shapiro. Matthew is joining property management in the new role of Conservation Grazing Program Manager and will report to Senior Property Management Specialist Omar Smith. As the Conservation Grazing Program Manager, Matthew will be responsible with coordinating with Natural Resources Department staff to maintain and enhance the diversity of native plant and animal communities, Land and Facility staff to manage vegetation fuel for fire protection, leaseholding grazers to help sustain the local agricultural economy, and coastal partners to preserve and foster appreciation for the region's rural agricultural heritage. In addition, as one of 81 certified rangeland managers in the state of California, Matthew will be responsible for managing and developing the rangeland management plans for the district's grazing properties. Matthew is coming to Midpen from Santa Barbara County, where he has lived and worked for the last 6 years as the as the University of California Cooperative Extension Livestock and Range Advisor. He completed his undergraduate work at Columbia University and earned a master's degree at the University of California, Berkeley in range management. For close to 15 years, Matthew has been roaming over the state's rangelands in a variety of capacities as a shepherd in Nevada County, on his hands and knees clipping grass as an academic and researcher, and as the ranch foreman for grass-fed beef operation, and running a small herd of goats for fuel reduction and fire protection. Matthew is thrilled to be landing with Midpen and to be exploring the rangelands and coastline within the district. When he's not hunting for waves, you'll find him and his new wife, Bianca, trying to refurbish their vintage trailer they recently, but maybe inadvisably, given the work that it needs, purchased. Matthew, would you like to come join us, please?
Thank you, Brandon, for the welcome. Matthew Shapiro, Conservation Grazing Program Manager, and I'll keep the remarks brief. I'm just thrilled to be here, as was written earlier. I know that this position has been a long time in the making, and I sort of thank the board for their vision and their approval and recognizing this need that MidPen has to have a more consistent and dedicated person overseeing the conservation grazing program. And the last couple of days, I started on Monday, have been smooth and a very easy landing, thanks to all the staff here at the office. And it's been a pleasure to get to know folks even just a little bit. And I look forward to meeting those who I haven't yet and to continuing to work with the board on all sorts of projects on the coast side and beyond. So thanks again for the opportunity.
And
Welcome.
Matthew,
Welcome aboard.
are you living in the Cloverdale house?
I am. Yes. So we moved in over the weekend and it's a commute, but it's a beautiful one at that.
Oh, cool, cool.
Welcome.
Okay,
Thank you.
yeah,
Welcome.
Great.
Great.
Okay. Our next candidate is Bill Halleck. After a competitive recruitment process, I'm pleased to introduce Bill as the new Field Resource Specialist for the Foothills region. Bill comes to us from the city of Menlo Park, where he was a park supervisor overseeing the maintenance of 400 acres of parks, open space, rights of ways, sports fields, lakes, ponds, playgrounds, school sites, and associated parkland facilities. Most recently, he was an acting project manager and worked with our past colleague, Tanisha Werner. Bill also has extensive experience in resource management and spent a number of years working for Ecological Concerns Incorporated as a senior project manager / landscape designer. The city of San Jose as an associate landscape architect, Habitat Restoration Group as a revegetation specialist, and Zentner Planning and Ecology working on wetland and riparian mitigation projects. Bill has a Bachelor of Arts from the University of Rhode Island in research development / plant science / landscape design, and a Master's of Arts from the Conway School of Landscape Design. Some of Bill's hobbies, including traveling in Mexico, swimming in the ocean, hiking, enjoying the natural landscape, and unicycling. Please join me in welcoming Bill to MidPen.
Thanks, Brandon. Bill Halleck, Field Resource Specialist, Land and Facilities. I will be working mostly out of Rancho and sometimes in the South Bay. And I didn't ride my unicycle here, so I'm sorry to disappoint you guys. But I'm thrilled to be here. I live in Willow Glen and my commute is a whopping 15 minutes, so I'm really fortunate for that. And yes, I did work with Tanisha for quite a while, and I'm one of the reasons for wanting to stay in Menlo Park was Tanisha, but it was your loss and your gain here. So I'm really happy. And you can see my background has both landscape architecture, planning, and environmental components to it. So I think I'm a really good fit to help with fire resiliency and habitat restoration. I think it's a really good opportunity. And I'm glad to be part of the team.
Well, welcome.
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 Fantastic.
Yeah, thank
Great
you.
to meet you.
Good evening, Rafaela Seguera. I'm the Budget and Finance Manager. It's my pleasure today to introduce Miranda Sham. She's our new Finance Supervisor. Miranda started her career in public accounting, and she is a certified public accountant or CPA, which I greatly appreciate. It's an incredible asset to have for us. After public accounting, she ventured into several of our neighboring municipalities. Most recently, she was a senior accountant for Los Altos Hills. So she comes from a neighboring jurisdiction, and Miranda will be the day-to-day supervisor in terms of payroll, accounts payable, and accounts receivable. She's already been incredibly instrumental with our audit, and I'm looking forward to many more things that we'll be working on together, but especially she's an excellent baker and has already kindly brought in several goodies. So I am a fan. So Miranda, would you like to say a couple of words?
Thank you, Rafaela, and good evening, board. I'm really great. I'm excited to be here, and it's all nice to meet you all.
Oh, welcome.
Welcome.
Lovely to meet you.
All right, and I have the pleasure to introduce our other new staff member, Shaylin Nelson, who started with Midpen October 2nd. And she is our new executive assistant to the general manager and deputy district clerk. She comes to us most recently from the Hayward Area Recreation and Park District, where she held the position of executive assistant and district clerk. And prior to Hayward, she supported a Superior Court judge in one of the busiest Superior Courts in the nation. She received her bachelor's degree in business with a minor in Spanish from the University of Puget Sound. And she has come to us with immense breadth of administrative support and customer service, and has been up and running very quickly, assisting myself with a number of activities to help keep things organized, scheduled, make sure that reviews and responses are made, and also assisting our district clerk, Maria Soria, with clerking duties as well. And so you will be seeing her or seeing her either present here or through remote video as part of our board meetings and committee meetings as well. So welcome, Shaylin.
Thank you, Anna. Good evening, Board of Directors. I just wanted to say that I'm so excited to be working here and part of all of the wonderful projects that Midpen has going on. I really look forward to working with you all and getting to know you better in the coming months.
Okay, well, welcome, Shaylin. Yeah. Okay, wow. Very impressive.
York, I
Yes.
have a quick question. Maria, maybe this is for you. Do we have access to an org chart or something? Because all these great people, but
Yes, I can go ahead and send that up.
that'd be great. Thank you.
No problem. It does.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, great. Yes. Wonderful. No, yeah, Midpen is so fortunate to be able to attract such excellent people.
Well, let me just pop in with that. In a time when lots of people are saying that it's very difficult to fill key positions, and I just want to compliment all of the staff that's involved in bringing new people on board.
Mhm.
They're obviously incredibly well qualified. And also they're wandering around and seeing new folks, they all have a smile on their faces. So that's a wonderful compliment to the entire staff, onboarding new people, integrating them smoothly and effectively into the team. And so congratulations, one and all. From my personally deeply appreciated.
Well said. Thank you. Thank you, Director Sear. Okay, so we have a long consent calendar because we actually have, it's a long meeting, but so there's a number of substantial items on here. And I know I have a couple comments on one of them, but let me look to the rest of the board to see if there's any comments or anything that you want to pull or questions and such.
I just had a quick question on item 4, if I might.
Yes.
And that, I wish I had asked this earlier. I'm sorry I didn't. I didn't see any mention of making sure that the nursery stock was clear of Phytophthora, or that would be looked at in any way. So could you talk to that, Cody, and tell me that Ecological Concerns is concerned about that?
Good evening, Cody Cifuentes Winter, Senior Resource Management Specialist. Could you repeat the question one more time? I'm sorry.
Yes, I didn't see any mention of ensuring that the nursery stock was clear of Phytophthora. And I assume that's part of it, but I just wanted to.
Yeah, so one of the requirements for any of our plants that are growing out in nurseries is that they're grown to a BMP standards, best management practices, through the Phytophthora Working Group, which is a state group that comes out with best management practices for all things with Phytophthora. And part of our protocol in addition is to test twice, once, which we just did the first series of tests last week. And then we'll do it again one more time right before we actually take the plants to take them out. Any signs of Phytophthora or other diseases, then we reject those plants and do not plant them out, and then we'll regrow them out.
Terrific. Thank you very much.
Yep.
If I could just add that, I believe last time I checked, these were actually contract requirements that are included in our specifications. So it's not, it's kind of built into our process, and Cody and his group have been really good about making
is
sure
correct.
that expectation is very clear to our contractors.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Well, can I comment on a couple?
Yes, please.
I want to thank staff for moving ahead with the Newt project. That's really going to be wonderful to have that at least underway. Very expensive project, but I think they're going to be worth it. The second one is I want to congratulate both the rangers and staff on coming to a contract settlement for 4 years. So thank you so much for doing that and persevering, and hopefully everybody's happy. Thank you.
Yes, Director.
Comment
Yes,
just
Director
briefly.
Rowe. Yes.
You're right. This consent calendar is probably the beefiest consent calendar that I've seen in a long time, not only money, but also in terms of topics. And
Yes.
I would just like to compliment staff on number 9. And that's the approval of the MRPOA agreement and memo of understanding. So I see people sitting in our audience. I see
Yes,
the
yes.
members of
And
our
we
staff.
actually have at least one public commenter on that.
Great. So,
So
I just
we'll be hearing.
I just want to thank everybody involved. I'm so happy that we're able to reach agreement and moving forward. So thanks all and for all the great work.
Okay. So yes,
Dr. Kishimoto.
Yes. Oh,
Could I simply add, I just wanted to add my thanks. I really appreciated the degree to which the Rangers stuck with it, stuck with us. And, we came to, after quite a bit of time, what I think is a very creative solution, and one that we hope will last a while for you in a good way. So really appreciated the creativity and the stick-to-itiveness on all sides to come to an agreement.
okay, Director Holman.
Ditto on Dr. Christine Tucker's comments about the new agreement, the new contract, and also to support Director McNiven's comments about the new project and the progress being made there and the next steps going on there, because it really is significant. We've had there's been a significant impact, and I'm really glad that we're taking steps to address that. So thank you to everybody.
Okay. Well, I'm going to make a couple comments as well, but maybe I'll just go ahead to the public commenters first. So I have 2 public speakers present in the room. I guess first is on the Newt crossing, and that is Mirov Bonchak. Okay, great. Yeah, please come up, and you have up to 3 minutes, and thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I'm speaking here to express my sincere gratitude to Midpen staff and board members for their dedication to the Newt Crossing project. I'm a volunteer manager of the, thank you. I'm a volunteer manager of the Newt Patrol Community Science Group, and I have personally documented over 12,000 dead newts since 2018. Together, we have collectively documented over 30,000 dead newts. This is a devastating number, but it gives us hope that the Newt Crossing project will make a real difference. Previous studies have shown that without the Newt Crossing project, the California newt will be locally extinct at the Lexington Reservoir area. The project will provide them with a safe way to cross the road and reach their breeding grounds. I'm grateful to Midpen for recognizing the importance of this project and for investing in the future of newts. I urge Midpen staff and board members to approve phase 1 and begin phase 2 of the project as soon as possible. Every day that the project is delayed, more newts will die. We cannot afford to wait any longer. Please act now to save the newts. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Anya, for your work on the newts.
President Kishimoto, I do have also the virtual public comment on item number 3.
Oh, okay. Should we do that first before? Okay.
Okay. The person's name is Deshelle Leeds. if you can go ahead and unmute yourself, and you'll have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dashel Leeds. I'm the Conservation Coordinator for the Sierra Club Loma Prieta chapter. Shanique Kleinhaus from the Santa Clara Valley Audubon Society has also asked me to speak tonight on her behalf. Both the Sierra Club Loma Prieta chapter and Santa Clara Valley Audubon Society are in strong support of item 3, the project to reduce newt mortality on Almer Bridge Road. We support the general manager's recommendations as listed in the agenda. We'd like to extend our sincerest gratitude to the staff, consultants, and volunteers such as Marav, who have worked so hard on this important issue. Let's move forward with phase 2. Thank you so much.
Okay. Well, thank you. Okay, and then we do have Alex Hapke to be speaking on number 9.
Good evening, directors. Alexander Hapke, President, Mid-Peninsula Rangers Peace Officers Association. I'm speaking on item 9, approval of memorandum of understanding between the Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space District and Mid-Peninsula Rangers Peace Officers Association. I'd like to acknowledge the time and effort of both negotiations teams to get to a signed agreement both sides could accept under the current circumstances. Both sides' willingness to have a mutual dialogue on the issues raised allowed this contract to come to fruition. For the association, this is the culmination of 5 years of work to improve the Rangers' salaries, benefits, and working conditions, and there's still more to do. The association is in support of the board approving this memorandum of understanding. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay, well, thank you to Alex and the rest of you who have come tonight. Well, I also wanted to make a couple brief comments. I guess one is, well, on this last one of the memorandum of understanding. I mean, I think it is a breakthrough agreement. I mean, I think I really compliments to all the parties. I mean, I think there was great creativity, great openness, a lot of kind of logical thinking that went into it. And really it's there's not that many agencies that would have, you know, the trust, I guess, to kind of do and to successfully complete this kind of really interspace negotiation, which I think this is a beautiful example of. So congratulations overall. So we're very proud of you all. And then I guess on the new project, I took a look at this and it is I was on the PNR committee that helped to kind of launch this whole thing about looking at that. And so we're definitely going in I think in the right direction. It is a substantial amount that we're potentially looking at. The report calls out eventually may cost, 25 to 30 million. It's a large amount of money. And maybe the question maybe for the board, and maybe I could bring this up at the end of the board meeting is, would the board like to have a little bit more information or like a study session on this just to get it more, or have we heard enough really? Yeah, we can talk about it. Maybe we can talk about it at the end of the board meeting, maybe. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's good thought. Okay. So, but for tonight, I think, yes, I'm fully supportive of it moving forward. So, would somebody like to move the consent calendar?
So move.
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Director Gleason?
Yes.
Director Christine Tucker?
Yes.
Director Ripple?
Yes.
President Kishimoto?
Yes.
Director Holman?
Yes.
Director McNiven?
Yes.
Director Sear?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 7-0.
Okay. Well, thank you. Congratulations. All right. Great step forward. All right. Okay. So we have the next meaty topic, I guess, is the board business item number 10, which is the preliminary report on the financial and operational sustainability model, FOSM refresh. So
sometimes I feel like looking out the window all day.
I have a little side gig of ventriloquist, I guess. I don't know. I didn't even know about it. But all joking aside, this is a very important topic though. Good evening, Stefan Jaskelak, ventriloquist and CFO. Tonight, we have the team, the leaders from the Baker Tilly Management Partners team that are helping us with the FOSM refresh, giving us a presentation on the process, on the findings, as well as preliminary recommendations. As you know, more than half of staff has been consulted in various stages. Additionally, this presentation has been shared and presented to all the department managers, AGMs, general manager, controller, and feedback has already been incorporated for that as well. Basically minor tweaks here and there. After receiving your feedback, the plan is to receive a draft report with more specifics on November 14th that we can then discuss as well, which will go into more detail. But I don't want to tell you what's in the report right now. I'll leave that up to Nancy Hetrick and Andy Belknap from Baker Tilly. So, you guys want to come up and?
You're going to talk to us?
I don't know. Okay.
Good evening, members of the board. It's nice to be here. Nancy Hetrick and Andy Belknap, who are here to present an update to you on the work we've been doing for the FOSM refresh.
Welcome back.
Thank you. It's very nice to be back.
To a new building.
Beautiful building, and we're
Yes,
delighted to be back here. So much has changed, so much has grown and developed and matured since the original FOSM was adopted by the board and implemented subsequently. And so we are here tonight to provide you with an update. So we had an opportunity to meet with each of you early on in the process. We wanted to share with you some of our learning and the kind of the key recommendations that have been emerging. These will come back to you in the form of a full report, but we wanted to at least give you a preview this evening of what we have been hearing and working on. So that's our presentation for this evening. We will be going through a little bit of an overview on the steps we have taken to learn about the status of the organization today. We will then be presenting what we call our major observations. And so those themes that really rise to the surface of being presented tonight. From there, then we'll walk through some of the preliminary recommendations. So that's our tiered approach walking through here. So I'll go ahead and get started. Andy and I are going to do a little tag team, and we look forward to the discussion that will follow. So starting off with the purpose of the engagement, just to keep us clear on what our assignment was with this. The original FOSM was adopted in 2015, and here we are 7 years later or so, 8 years later, and this is a refresh. So lots has changed, lots has occurred over the course of that time. And so this is an opportunity to put fresh eyes on the organization and also to look at current staffing levels as well as projected staffing levels going forward. So that's the reassessed projected growth. In addition, we're looking at ways in which the organization can continue to mature and grow and develop in order to meet future challenges that may be on the horizon. So ultimately, this is from moving an organization pre-FOSM as a young entrepreneurial organization to a more adolescent organization and moving on to a little more maturity. So that's the stages of where the organization has been. We've been greatly impressed with all of the work that has been accomplished. And this is not about a redo or a fix. This is really about continued progress and continuing to achieve the mission of the organization. So information, we used a whole variety of sources and processes in order to get our understanding of the organization. We reviewed a whole host of background documents, many of which have been approved by the board to provide direction to the organization. We did an experiential site visit. So we went out back. I didn't get to go on this one, but my peers got to go and do a tour of all of the preserves and see many places. However, we also did focus groups, and I was able to go and enjoy the sites through those focus groups. Also enjoy the trails on a regular basis. We also conducted a whole series of interviews. You'll see who we spoke with. We did a review of the financial model, the portfolio of Measure AA projects, and just did some peer preliminary research with some peers to understand how they're operating. So our site visit, you can see here some of the images from that site visit and the locations that we had an opportunity to tour. Extensive interviews, as I mentioned, we had a chance to meet with each of you to spend some time understanding your priorities, your interests for the organization. We also spoke directly with 23 staff and volunteer members from all departments represented. You can see here all listed. We also conducted a series of focus groups. We did these out on site in fields. You can see the photos of those as well, with cross sections of the various departments to ask about what's working post FOSM. What are some of the current challenges that are being experienced and what the opportunities may be looking forward. As I mentioned, we did a little bit of peer learning. These are the 5 peers we used in the original FOSM. So we went back and we conducted interviews with some specific learning in mind. We were interested to understand how they manage permit processes, the degree of ownership and self-regulation that occurs, and how they're managing the workflow, project management of delivery. All of those elements really have contributed to where we are today, and we're going to take you now through a little bit of context, and then we'll walk through the observations and recommendations. So I'm going to hand it over to Andy to take us through the next few slides.
Thank you, Nancy. Good evening, members of the board. I'm going to talk a little bit about the mission of MidPen and also overlay that on your enabling legislation. But the mission is to acquire and preserve open space in perpetuity, protect and restore the natural environment, and provide opportunities for public enjoyment in an ecologically sensitive manner. And the board has been really extraordinarily focused on this mission over the years, and is to be really congratulated on that. It's not easy to maintain such a focus, because particularly when you look at what you can do from a statutory standpoint, if you chose to, you could be about a mile wide and an inch deep, because you could, when you look at the enabling legislation, you have all the authority of any city or county park. You can do just about anything in the area of open space, park, use of land, even going to streets and highways. It's an extremely broad authority. But historically, you've kept your mission quite focused, and therefore you've been extremely successful in acquiring and protecting open space. And I know it's not easy. And in fact, we heard tonight, I think this Newt project is really interesting and you're going to do some good things. But, and I know it's also grant funded, but that's the kind of thing that you have to be careful about. And I know you take that very seriously, because I've been into enough of these meetings to know that you do think about that. You don't want to be diluted. When an opportunity comes up, you consider it carefully, but I know how focused you are. And I think that strategic viewpoint is going to be more and more important going forward. Some of the major changes that we've observed since the original FOSM was implemented, and incidentally, Nancy and I have just been terribly impressed with the capability and competency of the organization today versus 8 years ago. It's really, really come a long ways, and you're to be commended for that, for the leadership that the board has provided. It is such a more competent organization. You really, really grown, and I think you need the benefit, as we have had, of some time to be able to, sort of go away and come back. But these are some of the things that have happened subsequent to that original FOSM. And these are major organizational developments. And one of the things that sort of the bottom, I'll cut to the bottom line here, is you're much more successful today at sort of output in terms of getting the work done of both the AA projects and other projects. One of the things you've been really successful is using grants to leverage other monies. But if you just look at sort of output, the level of output today is quite a bit higher, and you're getting things done. And a whole bunch of these things are all about sort of project delivery and getting things done. And even though the environment is vastly more complicated, you're still being able to get things done because you've invested into tools to be able to get things done. So just to take one example, the ability of the organization to engage with the community and communicate with stakeholders out in the community is really exponentially better now. And that's just one area where the competency has grown. However, there are some things that we did not anticipate in that original FOSM that the organization has had to tackle. And this does translate into some staffing impacts that we'll talk about a little bit later in this presentation. But the whole area of climate change, we knew about it 8 years ago, but we didn't know about the ramifications the way we do today. I mean, we're living it now. It was more abstract then. There's a whole bunch of things that are happening due to climate change. And that's impacting your work. There's also been an explosion in visitation brought on to some degree by COVID, but also other things. And your land holdings have become much more diverse. And also the community engagement and tribal engagement is much more robust today than it ever was. And that's not always, that doesn't make project delivery easier. It's necessary. It's necessary. I underline that. It's necessary. You have to do it. But it makes the job sometimes harder. So, but it's a must do. It's not a nice to do. It's a must do. I'm going to turn it back to Nancy, and she's going to talk about some of the major themes that we've found.
Yeah, so the changes that have occurred in those years that Andy just highlighted really require some level setting of the organization. So that's part of the work we have been spending time on. So there are the long-term projections, but also to address all of those environmental shifts, what is it going to require of the organization to continue to be successful as it has. So we're going to walk through some major themes. Again, these are our observations. We'll come back to some of the preliminary recommendations to follow. We've got them categorized in these major theme areas. So starting off with organization culture, first of all, we're underscoring this and we still say it again, investments that have occurred since the FOSM has greatly expanded the capacity and the impact of MidPen. And so I think it's really important to lead with that because again, as I mentioned, this is not a fix, this is a growth. It's grown and matured. That being said, some of the observations around culture is there is a very high degree of can-do attitude, which is outstanding and has contributed to the success that you have had as an organization and impacting the community. But that also runs the risk as a small organization trying to do it all can sometimes push you a little bit off of mission. And so the intent to do it all, right? And so staying focused on the mission, and that's why we wanted to include that as a part of the presentation this evening is important. There's a tendency, we also heard with the FOSM, I think that all would agree that the FOSM has been a valuable tool, has served as a roadmap and a guide, but it also has been somewhat prescriptive. And so there were specific recommendations and it became a watermark for making choices. Exactly. And so one of the things that we think is important, particularly what we've observed with the unanticipated changes that have occurred in the last, particularly the last 5 years amid COVID and all of the environmental challenges, is that there really needs to be some flexibility built in. And so as we're doing our analysis, as we're developing our projections, we want to make sure that there is clarity that the organization will need to flex and grow and make strategic decisions along the way. Being an intentional organization is being a successful organization, and we want to make sure that our contribution in this effort supports that. Organization culture, again, always striving for excellence, sometimes can slow down the process. Trying to get everything as an A+, cross the dot the I, do it again, check it, did we get it all, and triple check can sometimes slow things down. And so that's one of the internal tensions that can be felt. And so there are choices to be made, and sometimes that's appropriate, and sometimes, a B+ is good enough. And so those are some of the observations. And lastly, this I know but I think important to share, and that is that managing that organizational growth as the district matures is going to require continued investment, as well as being intentional, both in staffing and in tools. And so that's the purpose of the refresh. And so we'll underscore just to foreshadow what's coming. So some observations around organization structure and staffing. The land holdings and the sheer size of Midpen and all of your assets has just grown tremendously, and it's just too large for the current capacity of staff to provide adequate coverage. So you'll see some recommendations that seek to address that. Specifically, the size and increasing scope of the Land and Facilities Department stretches management and staff beyond what is sustainable. This is no reflection on lack of talent, because you have extraordinary talent here. It's just scope and scale. And so we have some suggestions that we think will help to mitigate that and let the organization continue to grow and evolve. Implementation of the coastal wildfire resiliency and prevention and integrated pest management plans are going to require increases in staff. Those are areas that have been in place and are growing and are going to require some intentional investment. We also observed that the facilities and property management teams are insufficiently staffed to meet current or increasing demands. The holdings have just continued to increase, and the staffing capacity has not kept pace. Few more observations around structure and staffing. The rangers perform a whole variety of tasks, and the areas that they are serving and have responsibility for are diverse. And so as we're looking at modeling the projections of what will be required for future staffing, we need to understand and incorporate the distinction between the rural areas of Midpen and the urban, more densely populated areas. They serve in different ways, and that's appropriate. But we want to make sure that the staffing is adequate in meeting those different needs. We've also observed that there's really a need for staff to manage permit processes and regulatory requirements, both in the short and the long term. That's an area that can slow down projects. It takes a lot of time and energy, and you'll see we have some recommendation associated with that. And lastly, as the organization continues to grow, greater decision-making authority is going to need to be pushed down into the organization. This is just a matter of bandwidth and capacity. And so grooming and developing and providing greater authority at lower levels is going to be important to spend time investing in. All right, do you want to do our staffing trends?
So we have built a staffing model, and we think that the staffing will increase to about 280 FTE by 2034. You can see sort of that jump up right about now, and that's that's a catch-up thing because there are some positions associated with some of what Nancy just mentioned that are going to be need to be added kind of in the near term. And it's kind of like that jump up you see back in 2018 when the first FOSM, but not as much. So that's a little bit of good news. We don't have to catch up as much as we did back then, but we still have some catch up to do. We've discovered we have some catch up to do, mostly associated with some of those new areas. In the long term, most of the growth is going to be what we would call generically field growth, land and field service areas. But there's some growth is going to be required for internal services and management, and particularly so in some of these catch-up areas, because there are some areas where we need to catch up administratively. Anyway, it's going to continue to be a rapidly growing organization. You're around 200 people now. You're going to be around 300 people in about 10 years. It's going to continue to grow pretty rapidly. I love what you do about welcoming new people, but it's going to get bigger. Yeah.
There we go.
A little bit about the staffing trends. In the last 10 years, you grew about 68%. Probably grow a little bit less than that in the next 10 years, but still robust. We had a lot of growth in the last 10 years to catch up for some of the administrative and management areas where there were big gaps. Going to be a little bit less of that and going forward, but still some. And I already touched on, there's been a good improvement in throughput. And to use a Mike Fosterism, the CapEx spend is looking better. And that grant acquisition has really been sort of turbocharged your ability to get stuff done. I think investing in grant acquisition and management has been a real bright spot for the organization. I'll turn it back over
Okay.
to you now.
All right, so we'll talk about project delivery. Now is the next area with the observations. And as we said before, there's been a lot of major projects that have been delivered, many of which we all get to enjoy. So thank you for all of that. Individualized permitting demands have a major impact on project delivery. So again, we'll take a look at that and have a recommendation for you. Also, there has been a significant increase in community engagement, and there's pressures that come from all directions for that purpose. That particularly for the larger, more complex projects really requires an investment in time and resources, and it has the effect of slowing down some projects. And so it's something to be attentive to. Considerable time is expended on documenting activities and can result in duplication of efforts. So part of what we're trying to look is for efficiencies and ways to ensure clear workflow and handoffs through the process that are supporting of that, while still maintaining the repository of information that's necessary for tracking progress towards Measure AA and other projects. There are some gaps in the set of project management tools in the project delivery area that are, we believe, relatively easily remedied, that should have some good impact. And lastly, we want to note in project delivery, the role of natural resources is significant from the very beginning days and out and beyond. And so project natural resources as a partner throughout is really essential and a critical component. Internal support. So these are all of the areas that allow for all of those operational programs to be successful by providing the backbone to the organization. One of the things that we heard about quite a bit was the time that is required and that is necessary to deliver on some of the administrative and financial tasks really has an impact of pulling away some folks from programmatic work They're not doing it on a regular basis, and so it can take more time and there can be some inconsistencies. So we're looking for opportunities to better support those areas, those functions. Important to note, particularly as we're thinking about growth, it's really easy to focus on the delivery of projects and the opening and the supporting of your preserves, right? And that's often been the area of attention in terms of adding staff and thinking about that. But equally important and to not lose sight of is the support team that's behind it. So that's HR, that's the technology, that's finance and budget. All of these teams really are essential. And so we don't want to lose sight of those areas, because particularly in today's world, just using the next one as an example, the reliance on technology that has exponentially grown, and in an organization that's so widely spread out, and so demanding of those technology needs, you want to make sure you have adequate investment there. And then it was mentioned earlier, and I would echo, is doing a lot of the work of helping organizations to attract and retain talent. It's a tough market out there. It is challenging, and the talent you've been able to bring in, as even demonstrated this evening, is impressive. But it does require time and attention, and it requires the support of HR to be successful. So some financial takeaways, Andy?
Yes. Midpen has got a strong financial situation. It's keyed to property-related revenues, and generally speaking, you're in a good position fiscally. I think the Midpen is exceeding expectations with respect to grant funding, and it's staying on target with Measure AA spending. The one caution, and this is not true for most local governments. Most local governments have financial issues. Midpen doesn't really have any huge financial issues, but one reason for that, and I threw in these graphs a little bit. On the left-hand side, you'll see the San Francisco and the San Francisco area housing price situation. And Midpen finances are largely dependent on San Mateo area real property values and Santa Clara area real property values, and they've been really strong. There was a one dip in the Great Recession, but you can see from the graph on the left that even in the Great Recession, it wasn't as bad as in the state of California as a whole. It was bad, but not as bad. And you can see that on the graph on the right, which shows median housing prices just in San Mateo back to 1991. And they have risen steadily since 1991, except for the Great Recession, when you saw a degradation. But for the last 10 years, it's been really strong growth. And that has benefited Midpen financially. And you've heard a lot of people say it can't keep going, but it does keep going. And so I can't really stand here and say anything other than look at the track record. And that has helped Midpen a lot from a budgetary standpoint. Plus, you've had 45 years of Mike's modeling and helping, and that's pretty much you can't put really a price tag on that. Nancy's going to talk about some preliminary areas of recommendation.
Well, and showing that financial forecast and the healthy position of Midpen, as we're looking at opportunities for growth and continued expansion, that's something we need to look at to make sure that the recommendations are fundable, if that's a word, in a way that can be sustained. And those, we've worked with many organizations that have suffered through less promising times, and we want to make sure that that doesn't ever happen here. It doesn't look like that's going to be a problem. All right, so let's take a walk through some of the preliminary recommendations, and keep in mind that these will come to you through the report as well with greater detail, but we wanted to preview and show some of the areas that we're focusing on. To start, we wanted to just kind of emphasize that with the growth of the organization, there are some key elements that are going to be critical to maintaining. First of all, keeping clear and defined strategic focus on the mission has really served the organization well over the course of its lifetime, and as it grows, that will be important to continue to do. Human resources is going to have to be even a greater partner. I mean, they do a wonderful job supporting the organization, but with the amount of recruitment, the amount of training, the amount of development, all of these elements that are critical to an organization require solid human resources as a strategic partner to the departments. Similarly, continued investment in technology that serves organizational needs is going to be warranted. And so anticipating and planning for those expenditures, all for the increased efficiency and effectiveness of the organization will be important. And then lastly, as the organization grows, really being able to balance in the general manager's office the importance of guiding internal operations and making sure that work is completed and moving forward and hitting all the bells, while balancing the focus externally. And so the relationships with key stakeholders and partners in the region, and the necessity of having those allies is really important, and it takes time, attention, and consideration. So the balance between those is going to be critical. We're ping-ponging back and forth, but Andy, you want to talk about the?
Well, it's just some of the key assumptions in our staffing model is we're continuing to build it out, and we're looking at relationships and trends in terms of staffing and a whole bunch of variables that are important, sort of metrics that are important to Mid-Penn that are on the slide. We do think that there's going to be a shift in terms of sort of in the short term, there's need to catch up in kind of it's sort of an ad hoc thing. There's a catch up needs across the organization. That's in the short term. In the longer term, you're going to see mostly sort of land management, visitor services being the area where there's going to be the most growth, because those things are key. Like there seems to be a fairly, as trail mileage goes up, visitation seems to go up, which means we have more demand for people in the field. Yeah, Nancy, you want to take this one?
Sure. Ping-ponging back and forth. So I wanted to just point out to you on the model that Andy has been working on. We mentioned earlier the distinction between the urban and rural elements, and so that's one of the drivers that has been incorporated into the model in order to account for that. One of the things I mentioned before in the concerns with the last FOSM was the prescriptive nature. So we want to assure the board that we have built into the model the balance of need in terms of the number of staff, but ultimately it's going to be up to the organization to determine when and where and how to allocate those resources depending on the growth needs. And then also the growth, organizational growth at the bottom, there's a factor built in that as the organization grows, you're going to need to invest in internal support. And so that's that element built into the model as well. All right, so looking at planning and project delivery as a key element of the organization. So first off, we mentioned earlier about the need for additional support, project management tools and kind of continuous improvement. And so one of the areas we have been asked to look at was this idea of project management support. Project management occurs in the departments that are working in on the conveyor belt of project delivery. But we do believe that there are opportunities for providing additional capacity and support in coordination, training, workflow. For example, the second bullet there about project management software, providing guidance and resource information related to that, but to be a support area for the throughput in order to continue the focus on efficiency and results. There is a need to increase staffing capacity in the planning and engineering and construction departments in order to meet the time demands of the existing capital improvement action plan. So we'll have recommendations associated with that. And we also believe that there is some great benefit to increasing flexibility and efficiency by implementing some in-house design capacity within engineering and construction. Sometimes there are needs for quicker turnaround than can happen when you have to contract out, and having those skills in-house will speed up the process. And there seems to be plenty of work to keep that area busy. Field operations. Next area. So the first is land and facilities. We'll talk about visitor services next. So as we've already mentioned, the wildfire resiliency plan and the demands for that team will require the creation, and they've started to already create, but to build out the resource management wildfire resiliency crews, similar to the model that's used for the capital project support that happens in land and facilities. So using that model. Of course, establishing a permanent coastal field office, both for maintenance and rangers to work out of, that aligns to the coastal plan is going to require time and investment, but it's going to be an important next step for moving into the coast side. Creating a central services department. Now, this is a big one. I mentioned early on that land and facilities has a very broad scope. An increasing degree of responsibilities. And so we think that the time has come and it's warranted to create more of a central services department within this business line that includes fleet operations, facilities maintenance, property management, contract management, all of those central types of services with a manager over it in order to provide capacity and support. We also want to address staffing gaps that were raised earlier in the facility maintenance arena. And continue to build growth opportunities within the maintenance and ranger teams that encourages retention and also anticipates turnover and succession. Visitor services, the volunteer and interp and education programs are a wonderful asset to the organization. So continuing to invest in those areas is really a way to help build advocates for the preserves and have those additional resources. That requires the support and the team to manage it as you're looking to grow into new regions. Considering and building that out is going to be an important investment. Implementing a recruitment and retention strategy for rangers. That's a tough area to fill. And so continuing to work with creative solutions. You have housing options and you have some other creative solutions that have been employed, but really keeping a focus on that is going to be important. And then similarly to the maintenance side, planning for visitor service staff increases that align with the coastal management plan. Almost home stretch, you guys, almost done. Natural resources. So I mentioned earlier the concerns that come with permitting, the time that it takes. There's lots of turnover that occurs in all of these regulatory agencies that require continued education. You have very knowledgeable natural resources expertise in-house. We believe that including in their portfolio a permitting function that can be the knowledge source, the knowledge base to work with these regulatory agents and help to expedite those processes will be very beneficial to moving projects along. And then just generally, continuing to strengthen the partnership between natural resources and all departments, because they are in a unique position. They literally support and work with all areas of the organization. They're unique in that regard, and so finding ways to help inform project design early on, minimizing delays, it's a critical part of the equation. Lastly, internal support. I should never say lastly with internal support. I always feel like that's last, but you're not last. Continuing to invest in internal support functions to keep pace with organizational growth. This was something that was spotlighted as a major gap in the first FOSM, and really created a lot of the teams that you have today. You have a technology team, CFO. These were absent prior to the FOSM. But the investment needs to continue to keep pace to support the organizational needs. Increased support for operating departments for improved consistency and efficiency in administrative and financial tasks. We're kind of getting into the weeds a little bit, but recognizing the importance of consistency and support for the operating departments. Encouraging training and development that results in professional development. This is professional growth, sorry. Is also something that is really critical to retention and long-term staffing sustainability, and then continuing to implement technology tools and software that support the organization. So all of those functions that operate within the internal sphere really need to continue to grow. And that's our update for this evening. Lots to cover, lots to digest, I know. And you'll get a second at bat. This is just our preview. We wanted to give you an idea of where we were before the report were to come. So we would be more than delighted to answer your questions and hear your conversation.
Oh, I know. Well, fantastic. First I do just want to say, what a fantastic Bible that you created for us back in 2015, and we really did count on it as our blueprint. And maybe we counted on it too much, I guess but it was extremely valuable. And I don't know if you had a consulting product that was so faithfully followed.
Makes us feel good when we know that the project has really transformed an organization the way that the FOSM did. So
yes. And I also find it extremely helpful that we've kind of broken it down into this, it gives us time to digest it now, and it'll come back to us in detail. So yes, we'll kind of listen to questions, and I guess especially if there's any comments about anything that's kind of missing, or things that you would like more input on,
that'd be very helpful.
Put that by next time. I guess those are. So let's see. Why don't I start with Dr. Gleason now then?
Yeah, thank you very much. This is a lot to think about here. I just want to start with a very general question, which is, can you help us understand a little bit how we go from here to these things becoming more concrete recommendations? For example, say within planning or any piece of the organization, how does it turn into, what specific roles would you be looking to add, that sort of thing? I don't have a clear picture of how it goes out to that from here.
So that will come back as a part of the report. And so in the refresh FOSM report that comes before you, we'll have the analysis and the recommendations outlined, and a full list with a work plan. Within that is incorporated positions and other recommendations. And so that will be a part of that document. Okay.
Director Whipple.
Great. Well, thank you, Nancy and Andy. I'm so happy that you were able to come back and kind of pick up where you left off. A couple of things. If anything, I'm hearing you all say that we followed your advice, but we didn't grow fast enough. I mean, it's almost the structure was there, but we overshot in what we asked our staff to do, or what we set forth, but we really understaffed. So that I'm having a little bit of understanding what went wrong.
So I think I don't know that it's what went wrong. I think what changed. And so over the course of the last 5 to 8 years or
Yeah.
so, there were, first of all, the organization did grow faster,
Right.
I think, than was anticipated, but also there were those external drivers
Right.
that demanded new units to be developed and new areas of response
Right.
that we just didn't factor into the original FOSM. And so that's what's
Okay.
driving the catch up that we're talking, that's our technical term, by the way, the catch up.
Right. Okay.
But I don't know that it was a misfire so much as it was that the world changed a bit under us.
Correct. Okay, good. Got it. The second observation is, in a way, it sounds like we've got a few organizational, if you will, tweaks to happen, but I'm not seeing well, you guys have got to do another overhaul like you did back in 2015, because, if I think about it back in 2015, remember, we had a kind of a bottlenecked organization. And if anything, that's what you guys did. You blew it apart and you allowed for then kind of a breadth of capability. I'm a little bit surprised actually that I didn't see you say, okay, folks, you need to take the next step now, because are we still a little bit too centralized? I saw elements here to say you guys need to expand that out, but in a way, I'm not seeing any major structural change.
Well,
go ahead.
Well, there are going to be some fairly significant structural changes. That whole central services department is a fairly major reorganization. I wouldn't discount that, but your basic structure is a good structure. There's going to be some, I would say, some significant reorganizations, but not as significant as last time. I don't think it's going to be. It's more. I wouldn't call it tweaking because it's more than that.
Right.
It's going to be the basic organization is running pretty well. I have to say, and we work with lots of organizations that are not. But the basic organization here is running pretty well. There are some things that, because of growth that has occurred and growth that is going to occur, like central services, makes sense.
Right.
But
Okay.
but I don't think there's anything. There's no crisis here. We're
No,
not
right.
in crisis.
Yeah,
So
that's why you're here, to help us avoid that. So thank you. Got it.
we could be in crisis if we did nothing for the next 10 years, but
Right,
now today you're
right.
not in crisis.
Right. Okay. Last question, and then I'll turn it over to somebody else. I consider the board part of the organization, but there's no mention. Did you look at our function and our role, and is there things that we need to think about doing differently?
We will comment on that for sure. I don't think there's there's not any significant dysfunction here in terms of governance. The one area that we may touch on a little bit would be your ability to do more with less regulation from the counties on your own. We may discuss that a little bit. That's not that's really not that's not a board thing so much. It's just that historically you've played great deference to the counties, but you're all elected officials. You have powers and the ability to do things as a special district. So you have a natural resources department that's fully capable of regulatory permitting. So and I'm not suggesting that there be any revolt here. It's just that you may be able to do things with blanket permits like 3 other large open space districts do.
Right.
That's all.
Right.
Well, I think to your, maybe Sheila, your question also, we will speak to the importance of clear roles between the board and the organization, and the distinction, because part of the interest in wanting to do more and do well and bring excellence can sometimes result in mixed roles and
Right.
blended roles. And that's one area that we will speak to in the report.
Right, right. Okay, last just tweak to that, and that is that the board has a planning process, right, that we implemented right about the time you guys, maybe a couple years before you guys came in, but it's been we've been turning the wheel for quite a while. So I'd be interested if you have any comments about that, and not tonight, but in our recommendation of how we do that, because boy, we pretty much do the same process every year, and I think it's squeaking a little bit.
That's not something we had included in our scope thus far, but we can take a look at that and see
Okay,
where we might have some guidance.
great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Wow, this is a lot to think about tonight, and I really, really appreciate the degree of depth and breadth that you've brought to this. I want to talk a little bit about some things that I didn't see this evening that I've been thinking a lot about. As the organization matures and becomes more just matures, let's leave it at that. I was really happy to see your kind of paradigm shift to where we will have a rural focus and a more urban facing focus. Because as I think about how we deliver our COSIDE mission, it's really different than the urban facing work we do. And one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about, because we've been working on developing kind of in parallel to this process, our ag policy, which is coming up, kind of working, that wheel is spinning, while at the same time the FOSM wheel is spinning. When I think about ag and how the organization currently delivers on our encouragement of viable ag uses of the land and preservation of the rural character, we're very distributed. We have kind of parallel processing where there's little bits of ag kind of in each organizational entity here. And I wonder if eventually we need to move towards a more, even just on the front end, a more centralized way of working with the ag community and with our land holdings that are more rangeland and agriculturally focused. So that's something I'm thinking a lot about. And I'm really glad to see that we will have the ag policy coming to the board before you develop your final recommendations for us on November 14th. Another thing that I think we'll need to consider, and I'm hoping that the flexibility to do so is built into this FOSM, is as we open more lands on the coast, it will be imperative to us to be friends, not enemies, to the communities on the coast. As we bring more visitors to what is very, very limited transportation infrastructure. So how we do that, how we position ourselves, how we work with communities to be partners rather than, yuck, will be really important. And any thoughts you have on how we might do that would be appreciated. And finally, I want to talk a little bit about our messaging, and maybe this is like not within the scope of the FOSM, but again, it kind of goes along with my thinking here. We're really, really good at our messaging around climate resilience, wildlife corridors, you name it, those key environmental messages we're really good at and pushing them out to the public. What I think we're lagging a little bit in is the messaging around agriculture and its benefits to the environment, the local food systems, the saving of greenhouse gas emissions by buying locally, so that the work we do in agriculture and ranching is seen as a win for the community, not just we're doing it because it's an environmental thing. I'm not being very articulate on this, but I think it's important for us to expand our messaging around that as we move forward so that more people embrace what we do on the coast and see it as a win. Okay, so I think that's all I wanted to say. But yeah, thank you.
Those are good thoughts.
Well, thank you for, thank you, definitely for the presentation. And it's, I don't know how y'all do your job, quite frankly. It's magic. One of the things that I noticed right off is in the recommendations here and also in the presentation is, and it's included in attachment 1. It's the FOSM refresh scope of work. What would be really helpful to track is if you make a recommendation, refer to which of those areas are being addressed in that recommendation. And the reason for that is very practical for me, because there are some things in the scope of work that I didn't hear addressed at all. And then there's one that I have a question about, which is, where is it in my notes? It was in one of the slides. Hang on a second. Well, I don't find my note right now, but it was increased. Oh, here it is. That HR needs to be a greater partner with strategic resource for departments and strategic resource for departments. I have no issue or complaint about that whatsoever. Hopefully Candace is okay with that too. But I don't know how that addresses any of the points in the scope of work. Maybe I just don't connect the dots well, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, if we're asked to add up what two and two is, then let's put that 4 over here. It's like, oh, that's number 1. It would be really, really helpful for me. As a term, and I know this isn't just you guys that use it, but as a term, I have somewhat of heartburn with the term urban facing, because that indicates, and pardon me in advance for when I sneeze, as a term, it's leads one to believe that anything along Skyline is urban facing because it's not coast side. And I don't, it's how I interpret it. It's how I interpret it.
Not meant to.
Or that, but that's, so
okay.
what
Yeah.
does it mean? So Rancho San Antonio, is it urban facing? Well, more than some others, certainly, but so define urban facing, please, or find a different term if you would, please.
Sure.
The org chart, and I think it was Director Riffle that brought this up, an org chart would be really helpful, and it sounds like that's coming.
Yeah.
And that will include the board.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. With increased community engagement, I'm not assuming this was the intention. It came across sometimes to me as being a negative because it can slow things down. I'm not saying that that's your intention. I'm saying it comes across that way a little bit. I don't read you guys as that being your intention in that statement, but I think we need to be very, very clear in going forward that yes, it can make things take longer, maybe even cost more, but the outcomes are oftentimes better and garner the district more community support. So there's that. And with increased community engagement, are we right staffed for that increased engagement? I didn't see a comment about that. Maybe that will come up later when you make the final presentation. November's not that far away. This date, and it's like,
Trust me, I know.
makes me hyperventilate. And then in my notes over here, and I wasn't really clear on like, how do we fund all of this? Are we okay funding all of this? That wasn't really quite clear to me. So maybe I'm either being numbers averse tonight, or it could be made clearer for the November presentation. On staff report page 3, under preliminary recommendations, I don't know what this means either. Bullet number 2, it says general recommendations focus on blah, 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 blah. And then the last point there is, and taking advantage of a broad swath of self-governing authority. I don't know what that means.
It's not in here, it's in her report.
It's in the staff
It's in the
report.
staff report.
Oh.
That's talking about the ability to blanket premise. You want to?
It's the last point in the second bullet. taking
not in the
advantage
slide
of
deck,
broad
Andy.
swath
Oh.
of self-governing authority.
Could you say that again?
Yeah, it's on page 3 of the report, under preliminary recommendations, second bullet, general recommendations focus, and then in the last piece, it says, and taking advantage of a broad swath of self-governing authority. And I just don't know what that's pointing to.
That would refer to your authority as a local government to implement projects under your own authority without necessarily seeking permits or authorization from another local government.
Yes.
That's what that would.
That's what a self-governing authority does, but it says taking advantage of. So are there things we're not doing now that we should be doing?
I think it would be safe to say that most of your projects are permitted through either San Mateo or Santa Clara County.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Right,
there's still, okay. I'll look forward to more in November.
Well, and I don't think that we are suggesting that would be implemented in some, that's something that could be incremented incrementally. When we talk about a blanket permit, that refers to being able to do projects, excuse me, without having to go back and get specific permitting for every project.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me.
Right.
Okay, and we have talked about
Yeah.
that some, yes, okay.
Do that with San Mateo, it hasn't been terribly successful.
And then 1, 2, 3, the fourth bullet on that same page under preliminary recommendations, field operations needs to address staffing gaps in facilities. You'll flesh that out more in the
Yes.
final report?
Yeah.
Okay. And did you want to say anything about the two questions that I did ask, one having to do with HR and one having to do with community engagement, if we are right staffed for the amount of community engagement that we get? Or is that to come also?
All of the analysis and the recommendations will all be part of the report. In terms of the community engagement and the staffing needs within the planning department, we are looking to increase capacity as a catch-up. And that's in part to address those needs to do community engagement.
Okay, all right. And so are you okay with, and you understand the need for me at least to have a coordination between the recommendations and the scope numbers?
I hear what you're saying. And as we're finalizing the report, we'll try to make sure that it's clear, the link back to what we are seeking to address.
Okay, good. Because like I say, some now seem to be missing.
Okay.
And maybe they'll come later, but some seem to be unaddressed. And then there's some that are new to me.
Okay.
As I hear it anyway. So, okay. I think that is all from me. Oh, what happens in I think I read in this report, and I probably highlighted too much to be able to find it. So what happens in the final report if, and I'm not going to point at anybody, but it's Tom, Dick, and Harry need to all agree that, okay, this is what should go forward to the board. But what if Tom and Dick think yes, and Harry says no? I strongly resist that. So what happens? What's your job?
Our job is
you
to
bring
deliver our
alternatives?
best recommendations to you, and then the organization, under your direction and through staff, can decide what and how you want to implement it. And so, we strive to address the interests and the needs of the organization as a whole. Sometimes you have to make choices, and we try to make the best informed choices based on our observation and analysis. But at the end of the day, we're providing our recommendation to you in the form of the report. What you choose to do with that is entirely up to your organization.
Okay, so Tom, Dick, and Harry don't all have to agree with what you're putting forward. It's your best recommendation.
That's right.
Terrific. That's why we need independent thinking on these things to make sure we're all headed in the right direction. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Really
let's-
informative.
Let's see. Okay, I have some comments, but did you have,
Yeah, I'm very interested in this discussion about permitting, and I'm just wondering, I imagine there's probably a whole, range of different options there, and they have different benefits and possibly unintended consequences as well. So how much detail would you expect to provide, and do you have ideas about specific recommendations there?
We have specific recommendations as related to what and how you can use internal staff to support some of those. The broader questions that have been discussed around blanket permitting and some of those longer term strategies will be identified as longer term potential strategies, but we're not going to provide specific recommendations related to those. It really requires a different level of legal knowledge and analysis that it's not part of our scope and the work that we're doing.
And would you provide more information on what the specific agencies that you compared to?
Yeah,
do?
that will be all in the report.
Okay.
Yep.
Mm. Okay, let's see. So I have a few comments or questions. I guess, yes, you raise you raise a lot of good topics, and actually my fellow board members have raised a lot of great ones too. So just kind of randomly going down my list is, one was raised by Director Kirsten Tucker about just our aggregate impact on the coast. Well, because as you say, our property values in the Silicon Valley have gone up tremendously, and we've kind of grown with them. The coast population and the coast roads have not. Right. So in a way, I mean, one challenge is, how do we focus our planning and other resources to, make sure that we don't really ruin the coast. So that's kind of a plan, really a planning challenge. I don't know if that's something you can help us with or not, but it's just and then I guess another one is something that you've mentioned a couple of times about looking at the peer organizations. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, in a way, I don't know that much about GGNRA, the East Bay Parks and such, but how much can we learn from, are we kind of almost really cutting edge? I mean,
well, and I will tell you, yes. And I will also tell you that, in our interviews and conversations with staff, they have regular ongoing relationships and learning that occurs as a best practice. I mean, sure. I think that is something that really reflects the desire to know, to learn, to share.
Yeah.
And so the staff teams are very well informed, I believe, in the practices that are being utilized in other agencies. Mm-hmm. We had some specific areas that we wanted to learn, so we did interviews as a result. Mm-hmm. But they were specific inquiries; they weren't deep dives into the peer organizations.
Right. Okay, and that's going to be the report as well. Mm-hmm. Okay, so looking forward to that. And then I'm also, very interested in this discussion about whether we should assert ourselves more as a self-regulating. I know that's come up in fire services, our relative standing versus other, fire districts and counties and such. And mm-hmm. I think that's a big topic for discussion about. And I don't know where on what battlefield that gets fought out. I mean, that's that.
Well, I think the comment was made earlier about the relationships and the importance of those. Yeah. And so, some of this kind of starts to fall outside of the areas that are what we're focused on. Right. But the timing and the implementation and the rollout, kind of going back to the importance of being intentional and maintaining those relationships, anticipating need, so that you can successfully advance the mission, the coastal mission, as well as the organizational mission. It's going to take time. It's going to take time to do those things.
And and I know, like from the city, like when we were working with cities, I mean, the cities often deal with, like, if there's a school district within the school or a university, they have their own powers. So we don't necessarily have anything to say about what they do. Kind of, you said, so we're talking about the same kind of thing where whether we want to assert more of that. You know, also as, you know, just as an overall challenge, I don't know if I heard enough about is just the challenge of managing, you know, such a ever sprawling organization about geographically. I mean, I think already, you know, there's already challenges, right? About whether people run into each other enough and can coordinate enough. And so are you going to be talking more about strategies for kind of building stronger communication and culture? Yeah. I think that's
a big challenge for the organization.
Big challenge. Yeah. I think that. And then I do agree with Director Riffle about, you know, kind of including the board planning process, because I mean, the board planning process, I think has been really terrific, actually. But, you know, occasionally we miss, you know, even we miss a step, I guess, because we try to be super proactive. I mean, we start with environmental scan, and we do that on an yearly basis. And so, you know, again, what can we do to improve that? Okay, that's I think those. Oh, well, and then I do have to mention just financial planning. I guess one of the key expectations of this was, yes, are we on track for you know, for moving our pace on Measure AA projects? And, you know, we keep having that discussion. So it sounds like your preliminary answer is yes, that looks like we're on track, and especially because of our successful grant writing and such. But there, and I've, you know, one of my favorite topics that I always talk about is, you know, the impact of inflation, because, you know, for example, Measure you know, 10 years ago, it took $30 million. In today's dollars, it would be 60 million, but we don't necessarily budget for that. You know, if it were coming up today, we would say, oh, how do we come up with $30 million to this? And it would just be a half the size project, actually, because we'd say we only have $15 million allocated. So yes, do we adjust our planning for it, or as well as adjusting funding? So that's kind of, how do we adjusting for inflation, I think would be.
Well, 300 million is not what it used to be.
No, exactly. It's only
But you have
150 million.
You have done so much with the authorization that you did receive, that I dare say that the organization is in a much stronger place
right
today than it was in 2014, when that measure was placed before the voters, because the strongest thing you can say to the voters is, look what we did with the money you gave us. And you didn't have that really in 2014. You were just beginning. Now you have it. So I understand what you're saying, but I think that if you look at the track record of what the district has accomplished, you're in a stronger place with the voters today than you were.
And the other thing,
in 2014, with the understanding that this is a 2/3 hurdle that you have to get over.
well, there's a promise to a public, but also, as you said, maybe in a way we shouldn't be constrained by what, you know, but by the past, in a way that we shouldn't be saying each project is $30 million, because that's what it says, but that we should be going, I mean, we are a bit, but if we don't, then we have to come up with some other measure, I guess. That's
I think you're asking a good question.
Yeah. Okay. All right. If there are no other comments at this point, are there any public comments?
We did not have any public comments. Thank you.
All right. Well, I think this is
we will be back to you.
Excellent start. Yes. Thank you.
Time. You'll take care of this for you.
Oh, okay. There's a request for a copy of the slides, but okay, we'll get. Are we asking for a little break? Stretch break? Okay. Do we need a couple minutes or? together. And we have one more business item, which is number 11, award of contract for services to further diversity, equity, and inclusion goals, including preparation of a baseline assessment, action plan, staff training, and external reporting. So welcome.
Hello, everyone. I'm Katie Gilmer. I'm our DEI specialist, and get a little closer. My pronouns are she, her, and today I'm going to be sharing more about our current diversity, equity, and inclusion progress, as well as the DEI consultant award of contract. So as you know, the general manager's recommendations are to award the contract to ReadySet, to authorize the learning and development fees, and to include a 15% contingency for a not to exceed contract amount of $265,794. For the agenda today, I'll have a presentation where we'll go through the district's DEI journey, a preliminary assessment that was done, the RFP process, and the project timeline, and then we'll open it up for questions. So as we get started on the DEI journey, I wanted to talk a little bit about why DEI. When an organization improves their internal DEI, it also has positive effect on the community. I know we already know that DEI is important, which is why I'm here, but a couple of the reasons that we do prioritize DEI is to better serve all people and accurately represent the communities that we serve, to experience greater organizational performance and innovation, bringing in different perspectives, ideas, and solutions, to cultivate more creativity through a culture of belonging, to attract and retain diverse staff, and to promote equitable outdoor access in the communities that we serve. So I'd love to share a little bit of background information on DEI at MidPen. So diversity goals and initiatives were first adopted by the board as part of the strategic plan in 2011. In 2015, at the board retreat, the board discussed initiatives to promote diversity. In March of 2016, the board adopted the EDI policy, and this reflects the commitment to supporting equality, diversity, inclusion of all facets of society, the principles of which include fairness of treatment, recognition of rights, acceptance of responsibilities, commitment to equality, and dedication to expanding opportunities for all. In 2016, the board formed a diversity outreach ad hoc committee, and this was to increase involvement and outreach of diverse communities. In 2020, the general manager formed 2 staff DEI teams. One was focused on community outreach and partnerships, and the other was focused on hiring, recruitment, and staff development. Each of those teams proposed 6 policies or strategies for leadership, and those were presented at the board retreat in December of 2021. In 2022, a new DEI committee was formed, and they were formed to assist in the implementation of the DEI strategies that were formed by the 2 prior committees. And the committee identified contracting a DEI consultant and hiring a DEI specialist as crucial and foundational pieces to our DEI strategy. In May of this year, I came on board as the DEI specialist, and we're here today to award the contract to the DEI consultant. So here's a brief timeline of our DEI milestones. We have in 2011, our DEI goals were added to the strategic plan. In April, we have the RFP for the DEI consultant. In May, I came on board, and then in July, we had selected the top candidate. We also have a current DEI committee. There are 17 staff members on it that have joined us from various departments and have various positions. Members have contributed their time, effort, and expertise toward the many accomplishments of the DEI committee, and they're key components of the district's strong DEI foundation. The DEI committee has been comprised of 3 subcommittees, including the consultant RFP subcommittee, the outreach, and the recruitment subcommittee. We've actually just finished adjusting the consultant RFP subcommittee into a culture and engagement subcommittee, since we're just wrapping up that RFP process right now. And membership in the subcommittees have adjusted slightly in this next phase as well. We're really grateful for everyone's time and work on these subcommittees. So as mentioned in 2022, the committee identified contracting with a DEI consultant and hiring a DEI specialist as foundational pieces to our strategy. I was hired, and we are almost complete with hiring the DEI consultant. So my hire, along with that DEI consultant RFP process, was really an incredible accomplishment. So much of our staff spent many hours on both of those initiatives. In addition to that, there's other major successes that the DEI committee has been a part of. The Pride flag was flown and June was recognized as Pride Month. Pronouns have been added to the Microsoft Office and email signature templates. The internship program has been expanded, growing 66% since fiscal year 2022. Additionally, DEI has been acknowledged to promote diverse applicant pools. DEI progress was reported at the April all-staff meeting. Inclusive language has been added to create more grant opportunities for historically underrepresented groups, and there has been a 30% increase in applicants since 2021. The Native American Relations Team was established to address tribal relations and partnerships, and DEI partnerships are being built with other public agencies and nonprofits. So during my onboarding, I conducted a preliminary DEI assessment to begin collecting data around DEI culture and engagement at MidPen. The assessment included 32 formal meetings, some informal meetings, group meetings, and visits to field offices. Some of the strengths that were identified were an EDI policy, the DEI committee, the DEI specialist commission position, the DEI consultant process that's already underway, having budget and strong visible leadership support for DEI. All of that really creates a strong foundation, and I want to emphasize that these pieces aren't small. These systems will allow for long-term sustainable growth, and we can really celebrate the work that MidPen has done so far. Of course, there's always room for growth as well, and that's why we're here. So some key areas of growth are related to engagement, recruitment, retention, partnerships, and increased use of technology. I do want to note that this was not a full quantitative assessment. It does not, but it does provide a foundational understanding to help inform our internal DEI work now, as well as our work with the consultant. I'm really grateful for the time that the staff took to connect with me. So let's talk about the RFP process a little bit. So the scope of the RFP included 4 main tasks. Task 1 was the internal organizational assessment report. This is where we will analyze our organizational culture, climate, policies, practices, and procedures, and develop a report that synthesizes all of that information. Task 2 is the DEI action plan, and that will be to create a plan that offers guidance as well as prioritize actions and success metrics. And the action plan will then function as the strategic roadmap for the district. Task 3 is the external assessment report, and that will be to summarize task 1 and 2 for the public, as well as report on community outreach, partnerships, grant making, and other governmental affairs. And then task 4 is learning and development, and that is to provide training on staff on relevant DEI issues. We will use the baseline assessment data to develop a very specific training plan once we have that task 1 completed. So a structured evaluation process was used at each stage of the RFP process. So predetermined scorecards and rubrics were developed for each phase, and this really helped us remove bias and ensure a fair and effective inclusive evaluation process. Some of the evaluation criteria was alignment with the project objectives outlined in the RFP, the technical capabilities of long-term sustainability. So that means providing the district with access to assessment software so that future follow-up assessments could be done in-house. Implementation strategies that are actionable and supportive of full integration of the action plan. Ability to provide relevant DEI trainings, the qualifications of the project team, the overall presentation of the proposal and the suggested plan, the firm's experience with nonprofits and the public sector, and familiarity with MidPen. So overall, the RFP process was extremely in-depth and thorough. We had the RFP issued in April of this year, and 21 proposals were received. We had 7 to 9 staff members review each of those proposals and scored them based on a predetermined rubric. Of those 21 proposals, the top 6 firms went to an interview with the RFP subcommittee interview panel, and they were evaluated on a predetermined rubric as well. Of those 6, 3 went on to reference checks, and they were also scored on a predetermined rubric. So the firm with the highest score after the evaluation process was ReadySet, and they were chosen as the top firm for fulfilling the district's requirements and complying with the evaluation criteria set forth in the RFP. ReadySet is a DEI consulting firm located in Oakland. They focus on building more human-centric, inclusive cultures, teams, and services. Not only is their team comprised of professionals and academics with deep DEI expertise, but over half of their consultants are women identified, over half are people of color, and more than a third are LGBTQ+, which brings lived experiences and diverse perspectives into their work. I'd love to share a couple highlights from their proposal that scored highly during our evaluation process. ReadySet was the top scoring firm in the evaluation process and consistently received high marks at each phase of the process. They are a local Black woman-owned firm, and not only does this bring in the value of lived experiences, but it also provides us an opportunity to support diversity in contracting. ReadySet also has experience with government and nonprofits, and they've worked with the towns of Tiburon, Mill Valley, and Los Gatos. They also have a deep understanding of Midpen and are personally familiar with our preserves. They've had positive references and exceptional sample work for all of their services. One of the things that really stood out is that they achieved a 95% engagement rate in their previous organizational assessment. And this is really a testament to their ability to be effective, as the accepted rate right now is 50 to 70%. ReadySet also has secure data practices. They focus on creating inclusive and safe environments that limits risk in their data processing. And finally, they support sustainable technology models. So ReadySet can provide the district with ownership to the assessment software so that we can go ahead and conduct follow-up surveys in the future, independent of the consultant if we so choose to. This will also allow us to set up success metrics and follow up and monitor progress as we go along in years to come. So once we finalize the contract with ReadySet, the project timeline will be about 7 months. So we'll have the preparation, which will include preparing the consultant onboarding materials and organizing a consultant support team. The first 3 months will be for task 1, that organizational assessment, and that will include the assessment plan, policy and process reviews, the DEI climate survey, interviews and focus groups, as well as the assessment report. The next 3 months will be for task 2, and that's the DEI action plan. There will be some stakeholder strategy sessions, and then the action plan and roadmap will be presented. Month 7 is for the external assessment report, and that report includes the public report that summarizes task 1 and task 2, and it also will include a report that synthesizes findings from the community, from government affairs, and summarize that for the public as well. And then we have the learning and development phase, which will happen throughout the entire process and might have the potential to extend past 7 months. And that might include leadership training, board training, manager workshops, staff workshops, and an optional e-learning. We will develop a specific training program once we have that data from that task 1, that organizational assessment. But there will probably be some baseline trainings that can happen right away. So in wrapping up, there's a couple key points that I'd like to highlight. The district does have longstanding DEI efforts, including having DEI goals in the strategic plan, the EDI policy, the DEI committee, a DEI specialist, and robust leadership support. The preliminary assessment conducted found a lot of strong foundation for DEI, as well as some opportunities for continued growth and development. And then the consultant RFP process, ReadySet was selected as the top consultant after a very rigorous RFP process. And with that, I would love to open it up to questions.
Okay, thank you so much for all the thought that went into this. And yes, let me start down there. Yeah, Director Gleason.
Yeah, thank you very much for this. In just looking over the table, and there's a lot of variation in the quotes for the different parts of it. And I'm wondering, was that because there was a fair amount of scope for people to really define what the content was in those areas, or and can you speak a little bit to how you weighed those different things when maybe there were very different approaches taken?
Yeah, so I can speak that of the 21 proposals, the fees range from $50K to several million. I think 5 million was potentially the top one there. And so based on the required work and the level of expertise, ReadySet's fees were fair and reasonable and aligned with comparable quotes. They also met and scored highly on all of the evaluation criteria that we set forth. Also, we did not ask for a quote for the learning and development in our original proposal. So that was something that was added on as well and negotiated for this contract. So the proposal is fairly in the middle of a lot of the range.
I'm just wondering what types of things made the difference in somebody who was quoting more or less. What were they proposing that was very different in the content, or how did that come through in the quality of the proposal?
Yeah, the qualities of the proposals were across the board as well. And in terms of fees, some of it is very subjective in terms of everyone did meet the tasks that were presented in our RFP. And some of the pricing for the different tasks, it varied greatly. Like I said, some of them were several million. And what we were really looking at was not necessarily just the cost, but also the content and the quality and those criteria that we had set forth.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, Director Rickle.
Thanks, Katie. Wow, very impressive presentation. Thank you. Very thorough. You know what you're talking about. I'm feeling good about heading down the path you're recommending. Two questions. One is on slide 18. What does 95% engagement mean? It sounds good, but I'm not sure what it means.
Great question. So when you run internal assessments, you need people to actually respond and engage with to actually get good data. Typically, it's pretty hard to do. And as I mentioned, the typical rate is 50 to 70, and that's considered really good. If you hit 50, and they've achieved 95% in many of their other organizational assessments. And that not only includes the surveys, but also the in-person focus groups, the one-on-one meetings, interviews. So it really speaks to their ability to engage people and that people want to share insights back.
Right. Okay, good. My second question is from personal experience. So I was involved with an organization that actually used one of the consultants that we did not choose, but they went through 3 consultants and it was very painful and ended up firing all 3. I mean, thank you very much, but they caused more damage than they helped. I'm going to say that only because that's how the board and staff kind of felt afterwards. And basically what it turned out is staff and board finally came together and said, you know what, we now know enough, let's just do this ourselves. And they arrived on something. So maybe it was painful or whatever. They had to go through that, but they ended up doing this. Here's my concern. We have come a long, I think, and I think you shared this, we've come a long way. We've got a ways to go, but I'm feeling pretty good about kind of the trajectory. I'm a little bit fearful about bringing this organization in and saying, no, you got it all wrong. You got to go back to training and we've got to start all over again. So I'm kind of having some nightmares of what we lived through in the other organization.
Yeah.
So how do, first of all, do you understand what I'm saying and how are you feeling? And I don't know, maybe Candace, how are you all feeling about, oh my God, we better be careful what these guys tell us, because are we going to be ready to actually do something with it?
Yes, I can speak to that. So a couple of things. First, I feel that we do have a very, very strong foundation here. And that's something that I highlighted in my preliminary assessment. And I think that gives us a wonderful platform to continue to do the work and keep going down the path that we're already on.
Right.
I don't think that there is risk of destroying what we've already created, but instead building upon it.
Okay, good.
I'll also speak just to my personal background. I do have a background in tech, and I actually have done a lot of these internal organizational assessments on my own in the past too. And they're very key for getting data that you can then measure year over year and actually measure your progress and prioritize goals. So personally, I'm very much looking forward to this. I think it'll give us wonderful insights into what direction we need to go. The other thing with DEI is there's so many different projects you can go and so many different directions, and everyone's very passionate about different aspects of it. But when you can get this survey and this data, it really allows you to focus and prioritize on where you're going to put your resources and what you're actually trying to accomplish. So I view this as a very positive thing for our next step.
Got it. Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I'm sensitive to the time as well. Candace Basnight, HR manager. the vetting process that we went through looking at 21,
Yeah.
And Chris is nodding because he was one of the folks that was on that.
Right.
We were very judicious at really looking at who could meet what we asked for.
Right.
And also not only just do the work, because I'm leery of consultants, but
Yeah.
really
Since the other ones have left, or at least, anyhow.
But also that we are able to capture data that we could set up measurements for where we are now and measure it in the future and us control that information. So that was something key, not just, okay, we have all these plans, but we're going to come up and also be really know who we are as an organization, because that's really important when we hire people like Katie and all the other great people we've hired. We're very good at getting people who get us.
Got it.
And and trust me, if the consultant is not getting us, you know, we'll work. Exactly. So we'll work really hard to make sure that it's not a damaging or a bad experience, because I've experienced, and you have too, things that didn't work well. So I'm confident that we'll be able to steer it. I don't know if you want to say more on it, but.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I would add is we're going to be following the process very carefully and working very closely with the consultant, because one of the things that I'm really interested in as well is to make sure that whatever comes out of all of this work, including the assessment and the findings, and then eventually the recommendations, that they fit us. They fit who we are, they fit our values, they are an expansion of where we are now, and they celebrate what we've done so far. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's see. Oh, yes. Oh, okay. Well, I was just going to say, I mean, it is interesting that in the same evening, we're looking at both FOSM and DEI, because they're both going to be really pretty transformational, and hopefully they'll both make us, you know, very successful organizations into the future. So it's yeah, it's so I'm inspired that it's come from so much internal work, all the hardworking committees inside, which is very, very important. And that it has such strong foundations and fingers throughout the organization already. So, yeah, I'm going to be very interested and very supportive of the process. So, thank you very much.
Maybe one little quick.
Yes, please.
How much time, staff time, would this be taking in each session? Roughly, is it a day, a week?
So it depends on which part of the process. So there's a survey and everyone will take that, usually about 15 minutes on average to complete it. Some of the focus groups and the one-on-one meetings, depending on who's involved with that, will maybe be 30 to 60 minutes. We will also develop a support team that has a couple of key stakeholders in it, and they will be very involved in the process, such as Anna, myself, and so it'll depend on the level of involvement. The DEI committee, of course, will be involved too. So it'll vary depending on who's involved.
Not going away for a week.
Director Sear.
Just a quick comment. I was impressed with the very thorough vetting of the folks that you are suggesting we hire. It's more thorough than I think I've observed any process to choose a consultant. So for all the time and energy that lots and lots of people put into this, I'm really impressed and want to thank people.
Okay, let's see. Are there any public comments on this?
President Kishimoto, we did have one person, but they're no longer online.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm open to motion or discussion.
I'll discuss the motion. So first of all, Katie, I'm frankly, just based on your presentation and your knowledge of what we're doing here, I'm good. I like the direction we're going. I think you guys answered my concern really well. So I have no further questions. I'm confident this is the right next step. So I would like to move the general manager's recommendation.
I'll second. Oh, please.
You
Director
second.
No, please. Okay, Maria. All right.
All right.
I want Dr. Kristen.
Okay, that battle has been fought. Okay. All right. We have a motion and second. Roll call, please.
Director Gleason,
Yes.
Director Christine Tucker,
Yes.
Director Riffle,
Yes.
President Kishimoto,
Yes.
Director Holman,
Yes.
Director McNiven,
Yes.
Director Steer.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 7-0.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll look forward to the process.
Thank you so much.
Okay, very good. So let's see, where are we? Informational reports. Do we have any committee reports? I'll have PNR. Who's going to report for PNR? Oh yeah, it's right. Oh, it's right in here in front of you, Jed.
Excuse me, yeah, we did get the opportunity to take a look at the variety of design alternatives. A very thorough, again, look at the site, where we can go. And I think we're bringing forward a suggestion to the full board on which option to choose. Craig, you want to add to that, please?
Yeah, I think, there have been some concerns brought up from the public about sort of taking over the meadow there. And I think the staff brought forward a creative option that really tried to address that and had, I think, a lot of nice aspects to it. So I think you'll continue to see both options. But I appreciate the creativity and looking after what people were concerned about and really trying to provide a better option there.
Okay. Is that it? Okay. And staff reports?
Just really quickly, this is Anna Ruiz, General Manager. I think it was last week. We had a wonderful opportunity to get together with staff from Peninsula Open Space Trust. They hosted us, and actually it was a great turnout. I think, I don't know, maybe 30, 40 Midpen staff were there.
Oh, wow.
And quite a large group of post staff. It was really a great opportunity to just connect and talk about each other, the work each entity's doing, the partnerships that we have ongoing, opportunities in the future, and just connect as people. So we're going to be, I think, hosting them in the near future as well here.
Wonderful. Okay, director reports. Would you like to start? Sure.
So I had the chance to attend the September 24th Green Foothills Nature's Inspiration event. Saw several of you there at Sanborn Park, and it's nice to see the send off of Megan and the welcoming of Julie, a new transition there. Yeah, so I think they're a good partner, so it's nice to see that. I really appreciated and enjoyed the send-off for Mike Williams. So Susanna and everyone, thank you very much for doing that. And frankly, it was great to see Mike, but it was also great to see all the retirees and other people that used to work at the foundation, at the district. So that was really good to see. And then finally, I would just like to thank Candace and Rebecca for all of their help with the BAE committee and the work that we just completed with the appointee evaluations. We could not have done it without them. So thank you.
Yes, Dr. Holman.
Yeah, a few things. Ditto on the Mike Williams retirement party, and still boohoo, but good for him, and good for us that we had him for so many years, and he's not going to disappear. So thank you for the organization, Susanna and others. Last Friday evening was the Sierra Club Guardians of Nature Award, which went to Francis Lariviere, who started the committee to complete the refuge. And very impressively, she will be, and there's no problem in saying this because she was very forthcoming about it. She will be 100 on December 4th. Wow. And while she's not terribly ambulatory, she was helped to a chair in the front of the room and spoke with very clear, strong voice and without a single note in hand. Yeah. So pretty darned impressive, really impressive. And her body of work is to be admired for sure. And then that very day in the heat, Bay Restoration Authority hosted myriad organizations to come look at some of the projects that have been completed along the bay. And certainly with Bay Restoration Authority's support, General Manager Ana Ruiz was there too. It was hell hot, wasn't it? It was. We were at basically at Friendship Bridge along where the levee is, along San Francisco Creek and East Palo Alto, and also at Cooley Landing. Huge turnout. There was concern about people getting tickets because the turnout was so large. People were like double parking, and I don't know if I saw anybody double park, but people were parking on red curbs and illegally and stuff. So, but Anna jumped to the rescue to see that rangers were contacted and nobody was going to get ousted for their attendance at an environmental organization. And I think that's it.
Yes, Director Kirschenberger.
Just one other thing. I just wanted to thank Susanna and Gali and the whole crew who gave such a wonderful tour of the Skyline Field Office last week. That was really excellent. Really appreciated that. And it made the presentation this evening go so much better. Thank you.
Yes. Yes, Director Gleason.
Yeah, my wife and I also went to the Greenfoot Hills Nature's Inspiration, and that was great. Also, a little bit before that, I had the opportunity to meet Lenny Roberts and just sit down for a coffee. I'd met Alice Kaufman at our legislative event and made plans to meet with her, and she brought Lenny along, so that was fun. And also Mike Williams' retirement was fantastic. Met a bunch of people there. Got to hear a lot about old times at Midpen. And then also, I think last week, Susanna and her team presented to Jed and myself the Trail Explorer dashboard, which is an upcoming tool that will be available to our trail users. And it's really, really fun, really exciting, and just very creative and interesting work. I think I'll probably spend a lot of time with it, but I think many people will really appreciate it in helping them to find new places to go and find out the character of different trails that they could go to. Okay.
Yes. Oh,
sorry. I just wanted to add that the Sierra Club event was also attended by Margaret McNiven, Susanna, and Josh Hugg.
Okay. Dr. Sear?
Yes, to all three of those. Thank you, Craig. Attended those, but the intent of the IT folks is to get that to go live on the 15th of November, which is IT Day, I think so. So they have put a tremendous amount of effort into that mapping, based on our folks who come in temporarily in the summer. They just send the interns out and say, here, go measure the trail, and here's how you do it, and come back with the info, and then we'll put it together. And so was the 3 preserves are pretty thoroughly mapped with that out of our 26 or 27. So I'm looking forward to seeing that be operational as well. I think it's going to be a tremendous value to the public to choose what kind of an experience they want and be able to select that rather than sort of discovering, oops, this one's a little more steep than I anticipated, and that, that sort of thing. So thank you.
I guess I did do something. What did I do these last? I went to the Sierra Club. I also went to the Nature's Inspiration. Love that. And I did go to a Farm Bureau meeting, represented Mid-Penn. They seemed pleased to see someone there, so I will go back.
Good. And I'm sorry I missed all the Mike Williams and all these good parties. But
Yeah, I was sorry to miss that too.
yes, I had fun anyways. Yeah, and I just wanted to report that next week I'll be going to this Cal LAFCO meeting where I'll be on a panel for the fire services study actually. So it should be interesting. Okay, long meeting, but good meeting. So thank you, everybody. Meeting adjourned.